Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming to you on a Friday. Hope you had a wonderful and safe 4th of July. Welcome back. We've got a one-day work week, and then we hit the weekend for real. Many of you already in the midst of a 4-day weekend, but whatever you're up to on this Friday afternoon, thanks for kicking it with us on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, and producer-engineer Trenton Craxner with you this afternoon. Whether you're tuned in on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or if you're checking out our video stream, and there's lots of ways to do that. You can do it on Facebook, WIBW News. You can do it on Twitter, 580 Sports Talk, and you can do it on our YouTube page. Go subscribe today if you have not already. Subscribe to our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk, and be a part of the show in the YouTube live chat today. Maybe you're working, maybe you're not. I'll be real. If you're working today, you're probably mailing it in a little bit. The Friday after a Thursday, like a midweek holiday.
Oh, yeah.
You're mailing it in. Come on. It's 2 o'clock on a Friday after the 4th of July. You probably, celebrated your patriotism and your freedom with a few oat sodas and a few too many hot dogs and burgers on the grill, and you stayed up late blowing stuff up. You're not really working at this point, are you? You're among friends. You could admit that, but maybe some of you aren't working at all and are just counting down the minutes until it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Whatever the case it might be, we are extremely glad you've chosen to spend your time with us here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to make it worth your while. We have got a jam-packed show today. Tyler in the YouTube live chat says, "This is a mailman. I mail it in every day." I respect that. That's a good line, Tyler. Appreciate that. Appreciate you and everybody else in the YouTube live chat, everybody else involved in today's show. We are with you until 6 o'clock, and then we'll have a little overtime for you. Take you up to 6:30 when we'll hand things off to the Royals Baseball Network. The Royals are 5,280 feet above sea level for the weekend. They are in Denver to take on my beloved Colorado Rockies for the first of a 3-game series tonight. Cole Reagans, star left-hander for the Royals. Kyle Freeland, something less than a star left-hander for the Rockies. That is the pitching matchup for game 1 of the 3-game set tonight. We'll preview that. We'll take you up to the pregame coverage at 6:30 with first pitch at 7:10 in the Mile High City tonight, right here on 580 WIBW. We've got plenty of Royals to talk about on today's show. Royals dropping 2 in a row to the Tampa Bay Rays to lose that series and end the homestand on a losing note, but with a winning record overall. 6-4 on the 10-game homestand, but a disappointing end to it. As the Royals, I shouldn't say they lost 2 in a row. They lost 2 out of 3. They did win Wednesday night, but they lost last night, 10-8, the final score. Bobby Witt Jr. homered in the 9th, but it was not enough to complete the rally as Alec Marsh had one of his worst starts of the season, and the Royals fall and drop the rubber game. We will discuss everything that happened over the last 2 nights of Royals baseball, what they might have to do about the bullpen, going to a ballpark that is traditionally hard on bullpens. Going to Coors Field for a 3-game series. Now, this is not a particularly good Rockies lineup, but you still run into a Coors Field game here and there where the ball is carrying out. It is July now, so you do run the risk, even with your 3 best starting pitchers scheduled for the next 3 days, of putting yourself in a situation where we're going to ask a lot of the bullpen after you asked them to cover 18 outs last night. Might there be some moves in the future? We will discuss that. We will also talk about the biggest problem currently facing the Royals. And no, it has nothing to do with the bullpen. The leadoff spot is a major, major issue for this Royals team. Would you believe me if I told you that Royals leadoff hitters are the worst hitters on the team in terms of OPS? Every other lineup spot in the order is outproducing the one that bats the most. That doesn't seem ideal. Nope. We'll discuss where the Royals go, if they indeed go anywhere, with the leadoff role, as Michael Garcia continues to struggle. Nick Lofton got his chance at it last night and posted another offer, which has become par for the course for Nick Lofton of late. The numbers for those two lately in particular are pretty staggering. And we'll discuss what the Royals can do to try and solidify the leadoff spot. The guy, again, who takes the most at-bats on the team, you probably want something better than your worst OPS for your team. So we'll discuss the leadoff problem for the Royals. We're going to talk some Chiefs football today. We will get into the Pro Football Focus secondary rankings. You might imagine the Chiefs got some high marks there, and indeed they did. And a look at who's left on the free agent market. There are still some big names, so to speak, names you would recognize that are available on the free agent market. Would any of them make sense for the Chiefs, or do we think the Chiefs are done building their roster at least ahead of training camp, which again opens in 11 days? We are that close to the start of Chiefs training camp. And of course, because it's a Friday, we'll talk all things Chiefs with our good friend Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. He'll join us at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. We'll talk some Big 12 football today as well. 4 newcomers to the league this year, joining last year's 4 newcomers. We'll take a look at last year's new group, neither of whom made a real big splash in their first years in the Big 12. Does that change for any of them in year 2? And which of those teams has the quickest possible route to contention, if any of them have a route to perennial contention in the new Big 12? As for the newcomers this year, well, one of them is the preseason favorite to win the league. That's Utah. But will Utah stay atop the league's hierarchy? What about Arizona? And is there long-term hope for Colorado and Arizona State? We'll talk some Big 12 football later on in the show. And speaking of the Big 12, Kansas State picked to finish second in the conference, and they secured the commitment of Goodland tight end Linkon Cure earlier this week, the highest-rated recruit in the history of the K-State program. We thought we'd get to know Linkon Cure a little bit by going to, well, maybe not the source, but a source as close to the situation as I could unearth. My good friend Ross Volkmer, the voice of the Goodland Cowboys and host of the Morning Blitz on Fox Sports Tri-State AM 730 out in Goodland, will join us at the bottom of this hour. We'll get Ross's thoughts on what K-State is getting in Linkon Cure and what it was like to have the media circus reach the top side of Kansas this past week when Linkon Cure made his college selection. So Ross Volkmer will join us, and we'll talk Linkon Cure at the bottom of this hour. Plus, all the things you've come to expect from a Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'll play a little Change My Mind. We'll play On Second Thought. We'll crown a weekly What Is Wrong With You champion, sports headlines, the whole shebang-a-bang. You know what to expect on a Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. You are, as always, invited and encouraged to be part of the program. You can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That's 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429. Or you could join us here on the YouTube live chat. If you are watching again on our YouTube stream, that is 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. You can comment and join the fray. We've got a lively comment section already on this Friday afternoon. Or you can send us comments if you're watching on our Facebook page, WIBW News, or on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk, and we can interact with you in that fashion as well. Lots to talk about. We look forward to interacting with you throughout these 4 hours. Spencer, I wasn't lying when I said 4th of July was a little different here, was I?
No, I'm a little tired today.
A lot of big old booms, huh?
Yeah, well into the night sky.
Well
into the wee hours of July 5th.
I have always very much been live and let live when it comes to fireworks. It's not my deal. It's not something I want to spend money on, or not something I want to be anywhere near when you light them. Because I've seen what Jason Pierre-Paul's hand looks like now, right? That was the moment I was kind of out on fireworks for good and for always. I don't need to be the pyrotechnician in anybody's neighborhood. You want to put on a show? By all means, put on a show. They are pretty to look at. They are a lot of fun. As long as everybody stays safe, I'm all for it. Very live and let live on that. I can tell you this, trying to put a newborn to bed about 10 o'clock last night, I was ready to call the governor, the National Guard.
Well, the problem
I was going to ring the White House. Nobody would have been awake, but I was going to call. I was going to say, hey, please stop the fireworks, stop the madness. These are these mortar shells going off 20 feet from my driveway at 10:15 p.m. It's a little much, but I hope everybody had a great 4th of July and most importantly of all, a safe 4th of July. Hope we all came back 10 fingers, 10 toes.
Yes.
All our limbs were all good.
Yes. I will tell you though, I did in fact make you would hate what I did last night.
What did you do last night?
It involves buying fireworks.
You bought some fireworks.
Yes.
I don't like I said, I'm live and let live. You want to spend your money on stuff you're going to immediately blow up, by all means.
Well, the good thing is, so there's one near where I live at the bottom of the hill, right?
Uh-huh.
I've been driving by it every day for a week.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? Heck with it. Why not? Because I knew I wasn't going to go bed anytime soon after we got back from the Lake Shawnee fireworks last night. So I pulled in, and you know, that could possibly have been the best time to ever go there, because what are they trying to do on the 4th of July at after 10:30?
Get rid of their inventory.
Yes. So I paid $22 last night at Second to None Fireworks. Shout out to them.
Okay. Yeah, I know exactly where that is. Yes.
Yes. Not only did I pay $22 for 2 fireworks, one was 25 rounds of aerial shoot-ups.
Okay.
I was telling the guy, you know, I've been thinking about it. Not really, not a huge firework guy. Because in Virginia, obviously, like, you just had those little fountains. So why spend money on those things, right? So I was like, you know, here I realized things are the legalities are different. So I decided to come down and get some. And I was like, I just moved here a few months ago. The guy the owner gave me a free M80.
Oh, how
and
nice.
A free Roman candle.
How nice of him.
Yeah. So shout out to the owner of Second to None Fireworks.
So are you saving those for a special occasion, or?
I did shoot off the M80 last night.
Okay.
And then I did shoot off the 2 fireworks I got, but I kept the Roman candle because I've never shot off a Roman candle before.
Okay.
And there's really nowhere I live where you can actually follow the directions.
Okay.
I didn't want to, I wanted to come back with everything today.
Makes sense. Yeah. Everything intact.
Because,
That's good.
You know, there is people say with Roman candles, you can kind of just hold them and light them off and point them. I'd never done that before. I was a little nervous about it, to be completely honest. So I was like, you know, we'll just keep that one for some time
for
later.
A rainy day, not literally, but you know what I mean. Well, I'm glad that was a good shopping experience, a bargain hunting experience for you. And again, I hope that everybody had a safe and fun 4th of July. We grilled out burgers and hot dogs and lots of good watermelon, like lots of goodies, and did not watch as many fireworks as I have in past years because, again, I was trying to get a baby to sleep. But he was a heartier sleeper than I was, I can tell you, through through some of the big old booms in my neighborhood. I did end up going to bed prior to the end of last night's Royals game. We'll get there in a second. It was a wild one, a 10-8 Royals loss. Wednesday night, the Royals won 4-2. Quick thoughts on that one, since we didn't get a chance to it. We didn't have a show yesterday. Wednesday night was the Royals formula, like down to a T. That's how the Royals are going to win baseball games. Good starting pitching, 6 strong innings from Seth Lugo, run prevention, a run-saving play from Kyle Isbell that's as good a play as he has made all year, as he continues to prove that he is one of the upper echelon defensive center fielders in baseball. 5-out save for James MacArthur, little nervy, but got the job done. And the stars came through on offense. Your runs were driven in by Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, and then the 2-run single from Salvador Perez. That's how the Royals win baseball games. That's the formula. That's the secret sauce on Wednesday night. Thursday night, it was apparent from the get-go that the formula was not going to work in the fashion that the Royals would like it to, because Alec Marsh turned in a stinker last night. And it really speaks to the season that Marsh has had, that he hasn't had a lot of these. And really, the Royals as a team haven't had a lot of starts that you feel like are real duds. Like shorter than 4 innings, more than 4 runs. I consider that to be like a dud. Yeah. Like if you give up five or more runs, you make your team need a grand slam plus, and you go 4 or fewer, so you're asking the bullpen to pick up 15 or more outs. Going into last night, Alec Marsh only had one start like that all season. It was his start in Oakland. And he was not good. He was not sharp. It was evident right away. Walked the first two guys he faced, put his team behind 2-0 before they swung the bat. Ended up giving up 5 runs on 6 hits over 3 innings. Only 1 strikeout. Walked 3 of what ended up being 8 Royals walks. And Christopher points this out in the YouTube live chat, that the Royals walked as many guys last night as a pitching staff as the Tampa Bay starter, Zach Eflin, has walked all season. 8 walks. And Zach Eflin didn't get called up 2 weeks ago either. He's been in the rotation all year. He's a control expert, and the guys the Royals rolled out there last night were not. And it dug too deep a hole. The Royals were able to get within 5-3 in the third, but then the Rays put 3 runs on a combination of Carlos Hernandez and Will Smith in the 5th. And the Royals, despite a 3-run rally in the 6th to get within 9-7, were unable to really threaten late. All they got in the final 3 innings was a solo home run from Bobby Witt Jr. with 2 out in the 9th off of Pete Fairbanks, 14th home run of the year for Witt, who had a 3-hit game. I mean, look, the Royals scored 8 runs. Offensively, you feel like that's a pretty good day at the office. 2 hits for Hunter Renfroe. Michael Massey with his 8th home run of the year.
And before we get to any more, Michael Massey made his return to second base.
Yes, he did. It was good to see him back in the field. Massey playing second base for the first time since he was recalled from the injured list. Vinny Pasquantino drove in a couple runs. Nick Lofton did get a hit. More about him again later on. He did get a double off of the starter Eflin. But it was the pitching that let the Royals down last night, and that's just not typical. It was a bad night just all the way around. 8 walks in the game, 19 in 27 innings for the Royals pitching staff in this series loss. 5 of those walks scored last night. Just a ugly, ugly night. And the disappointment in Marsh's outing is him only going 3 innings meant the bullpen needed to pick up 18 outs. And that meant Carlos Hernandez for an inning and 2/3, 45 pitches. He is very unlikely to be available, certainly not tonight. You wonder about his availability tomorrow in the Colorado series. 29 pitches for Will Smith, which is quite a few. He may not be available tonight. 40 pitches for Angel Zerpa. He's certainly not going to be available tonight. And it's of a piece, and Trenton, you found the numbers, of a piece with a bullpen that has really been taxed here over the last few days. And it's never good to go to Denver with a taxed bullpen, even though, again, this is not a particularly good Royals team, or excuse me, Rockies team that the Royals are going to play. It's still Coors Field baseball, and you want to have as fresh a bullpen as possible, and that's just not going to be the case for Kansas City.
Yeah, 45 pitches for Hernandez last night, but 77 over the last 3 days. 44 for Zerpa, 37 for Stratton, who did not pitch last night, but he pitched back-to-back nights before, so he's still throwing 2 out of the last 3. Schreiber didn't throw last night. He's thrown out 2 out of the last 3, 32 pitches. Anderson, 2 out of the last 3, 30 pitches. Smith hadn't pitched in 3 days before last night, but like you said, 29. MacArthur, 24 pitches in that 5-out save that he got on Wednesday night. And then Sam Longo hadn't pitched in 3 days. He's up to 21. They're going to have to call someone up from AAA. I've been refreshing the Royals Twitter page all day, just waiting for somebody to be called up, because a guy that we've been mentioning for a while now, his rehab assignment expires tomorrow, and that is Chris Bubich.
That's right.
But with a full 40-man roster, who gets the DFA? And if you're not wanting to call up one of the guys from the AAA that are already on the 40-man roster, who else are you DFAing to bring up maybe a Walter Pennington or someone else that's not on the 40-man that's in AAA?
It's a good question. I don't know what the rules are about injured players, if they could DFA Dan Altavilla, who was injured and he's currently on the 15-day injured list. I don't know.
Transfer him to the 60-day.
They could do that, but it's not a 60-day injury. They could manipulate it that way, and Altavilla gets to continue to cash a major league check and he free up a roster spot. But Walter Pennington, for those who don't know, and Trenton, you know this better than me even, is kind of the great minor league hope at present with the year he's having down in Omaha.
Yeah, he's striking out a lot of guys, which was very evident in this series that the bullpen doesn't strike out a lot of guys. I thought coming into the series, the bullpen had actually done a better job of striking guys out lately. But you look at some of those pitches last night, especially when Hernandez walked the first 3 guys in the 5th, all those were 2-strike counts. And he just couldn't get him to chase a pitch or they'd foul it off. His stuff wasn't good enough to strike a guy out, despite him being able to throw 100 miles per hour because that's his only effective pitch because his off speed just isn't good to strike anyone out. But Pennington would be a guy, and I just saw something that got put on Twitter by Preston Farr. He does a good job covering the Royals minor leagues. He says that maybe the Royals view Walter Pennington as Drew Waters, as maybe he's just a quad A guy that isn't going to save the bullpen necessarily. And maybe the Royals fans are clamoring for him a little too much when there's a lot of holes in the bullpen. One guy's not going to plug the entire gap.
There are. This is not a bullpen where you feel a great deal of calm when they go to really anybody in the group right now. I do wonder if maybe this is the end of the line for Carlos Hernandez, who since he's come up in 12 outings has pitched to a 3.86 ERA, which is respectable enough, but only 8 strikeouts and 8 walks in 11 2/3 with the arm as big as his. I don't think he'd slip through waivers. I think somebody would claim him, but maybe that's a guy where they feel like, man, it's just not working. Maybe we're beating our head against the wall when it comes to Carlos Hernandez. And this is a guy we can afford to maybe dangle to waivers and see if maybe then if they DFA him and the team wants to claim him, maybe work out a trade to get recoup like a low A arm or something and clear that 40-man roster spot for if it's not Pennington. I mean, they're going to need a 40-man roster spot eventually if they make a trade, right? So to me, of the guys in the bullpen, like, Stratton hasn't been very good, and Will Smith on balance hasn't been very good, and neither of those guys are missing bats. Will Smith striking out 5.5 guys per 9. You can't do that in a modern major league bullpen. Like, I don't know. I don't think you hug too tightly to any of these guys. I really wouldn't be. The only guys that would surprise me if they were removed from the bullpen, I feel like MacArthur's got his role, and Schreiber obviously still has a great deal of trust from Matt Quatrero. And I think Zerpa and Long have pitched well enough, and Anderson has been better lately, but even he, his track record this season hasn't been spectacular. But that's 3 spots. That's Smith and Stratton and Hernandez. Like, I wouldn't get too attached to either of those guys. I wouldn't go out and buy a jersey. Let me put it that way. I wouldn't go out and buy a jersey of either of any of those guys, because I think that those definitely could be roster casualties, 40-man roster casualties as the Royals move forward and try and fortify this bullpen, both in the short term with maybe a reinforcement or two as they head to Colorado. Now, I don't know what the workload has looked like for guys like Steven Cruz or John McMillan or Will Klein down at AAA Omaha, but sometimes you just need a fresh arm, and it might be a short-term move to go get a fresh arm and send Hernandez down, option Hernandez. That would be kind of an obvious move to make today if the Royals made one. Maybe they got somebody waiting for him at Denver International and left Carlos Hernandez in the home clubhouse.
Well, yeah, because Bubic is his last 10 days expire tomorrow. So tomorrow the Royals have to call him up to the major league team, or they have to option him to AAA, and that would be his final option for Chris Bubic. So they have to make a decision tomorrow. And I'm wondering, is he just in the clubhouse for tomorrow? Do you wait one day and just hope Cole Reagans absolutely shoves 7 innings, 8 innings tonight for you, and just, okay, James or Schreiber, go out and get 3 outs for us? Or maybe the Royals are losing 2-1 or something. It's like, okay, Cole just threw a complete game. We don't have to use anyone. Is that what you're banking on? And just bring up Bubic tomorrow for Hernandez? But then on the flip side, are you running 5 left-handed guys out of the bullpen?
That's a lot. That's a lot of left-handers. Rockies are a little lefty heavy. Like, I think you could maybe get away with it for this series, where most of the guys are going to do damage or either left-handed or switch hitters. But long term, I don't know. You go 5 lefties in a modern bullpen. I don't know that that's the move. Because none of those guys is Billy Wagner, right? Like none of those guys is a dominant lefty that you don't have to mix and match like that. So
I feel like too, just putting, not that he doesn't deserve the faith you would put in him and Cole Reagans tonight, but you never want to like say we're going to be good tonight and then it come back to burn you and you're just completely screwed because something funky happens.
Yeah, you need length from Cole Reagans tonight.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And I'm sure the Royals would be happy to have that in the opener of their series in Denver. We've got to take our first break here on 580 Sports Talk, coming to you live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. When we come back, around to Change My Mind here on 580 WIBW. We're just getting started on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Spencer, did you know Kenny Chesney plays Arrowhead Stadium tomorrow night?
Yes, I did.
Well, we've got tickets to give away. We have got, I believe it's a pair of tickets to give away to see that show. We're going to do it on today's program. So be listening for your chance to win tickets, 2 tickets to see Kenny Chesney at Arrowhead Stadium tomorrow night on the Sun Goes Down 2024 tour. We're going to do that here.
Not only him, Zach Brown Band, Megan Maroney, and Uncle Cracker.
Oh, that's right. Uncle Cracker. That's right. Yeah. That's why you were asking me last week what my favorite Uncle Cracker song was, and I had no response. But stay tuned for your opportunity to go and see that show, the Kenny Chesney Sun Goes Down 2024 tour tomorrow night at Arrowhead Stadium. We're going to get one lucky listener a pair of tickets. Right now, time for a round of Change My Mind. Change My Mind. The Tampa Bay team that the Royals just played is more of a threat to take a wild card spot than the Boston Red Sox out of the American League East.
I agree.
Why do you agree?
I agree because that team's won 5 straight series. They're getting healthy. Shane Baz is starting tonight. They might get McClanahan back too. Andrew Rasmussen. Their pitching is getting really healthy. And look at Boston's schedule in July and August. Just an absolutely brutal sketch next 2 months for the Boston Red Sox.
The Red Sox also hitting their stride though right now. They're 7-3 in their last 10. And it seems like the Yankees are starting to falter a little bit.
5-14 in their last 19, I believe, for
Yes.
the Pinstripes. And look at that, Red Sox at Yankees this weekend.
Yeah, so if Boston could take advantage of that, they can keep winning. And I think Boston's the bigger threat because I think Tampa they just have too many injuries, and you can't just come back and boom, you're at the top of your game, right? Like that's just not how it works. Take some time to get yourself back into big league, especially pitching.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it, that they've got some exciting pitching talent on the way back from injury. But yeah, how good are those guys going to be right away? They're going to need to be pretty good because the starting pitching rotation that Tampa Bay currently has is not to the standard that we're used to seeing from the Rays. Still, I like their lineup better. I still think Boston's doing it with mirrors a little bit. I will say that no one has changed my mind. That you did not change my mind. It was a good argument, Spencer, but you did not change my mind. I think Tampa Bay is going to finish ahead of Boston. I don't know that either team makes a wild card. I think Baltimore/New York is going to grab one. I right now still think Kansas City will grab one because I believe in the pitching staff, and I think that's really what's most important over a 162 game season. But I do. I think Tampa Bay is going to run Boston down, only 3.5 back of Boston right now in the American League East, and over 500 after their 5th straight series win in Kansas City. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, my good friend Ross Volkmer, he's the voice of the Goodland High School Cowboys, so he knows about K-State 5-star recruit Linkon Cure. He knew Linkon Cure back when he was just a lowly 3-star recruit. We're going to get the inside dope on the newest K-State commit from the man who calls their high school games, Ross Volkmer, on the other side of this break here on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk, 2:41 on this Friday afternoon in the capital city. Earlier this week, the Kansas State Wildcats secured the commitment from the highest-rated football prospect in the school's history, Goodland High School tight end Linkon Cure. We're pleased to be joined now on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by the man who calls the high school games for the Cowboys of Goodland High. He's also the host of The Morning Blitz on Fox Sports Tri-State, AM 730 out in Goodland, a show that he once graciously let me co-host for a span of a few months. That tells you the kind of guy he is, the kind of eye for talent he's got. Ross Volkmer is our guest. Ross, how we doing, buddy?
That is a typical Dan Lucero line right there. Yes, the eye for talent is fantastic. Hey, great to be with you, Dan. I'm glad that I can reciprocate. You know, you're always coming on my show. I'm just so glad I could actually do something for your show.
Well, I'm always happy to talk to the good people of Northwest Kansas, and great to have you on as well, Ross, as we get the inside scoop on Linkon Cure. And I have to ask first, I know that there have been some outstanding athletes that have come through Northwest Kansas in your time out west in Colby and Goodland, but I can't imagine anything quite like the media circus that descended upon the top side of Kansas this past week and this past Monday for Linkon Cure's commitment. What exactly was that like?
You know, honestly, Dan, the thing that the media circus I didn't think was terrible. I mean, there were definitely more people coming out to the middle of nowhere America than usual. And that certainly was something to see. The thing that really got me the most, Dan, during this whole process was the amount of private jets that flew into the Goodland Regional Airport that were carrying the coaches that we see on Saturdays roaming the sidelines. You know, your Lance Leipold, your Chris Klymans, your Matt Rules, you know, Lincoln Riley's, these big private jets coming into Goodland Regional Airport and landing and coming and recruiting and seeing these guys walk the halls of Goodland High School to talk with it. To me, that was the thing that was like out of this world. But no doubt, yeah, there was certainly a good number of media that came on Monday for his commitment ceremony. And it was so funny, Dan. You know, you're talking about the Morning Blitz, and we had Linkon on a couple weeks ago. And I don't know why I thought this. I guess I was just being so dumb. But I told him, I said, hey, I kind of jokingly said, hey, what would it be like if you came on the Blitz and announced your commitment on the Blitz? And he goes, you know, I wouldn't mind that, but I'm going to have, 24/7 sports. I'm going to have a camera. And I tell you, but Dan, after that conversation, I sat back like, Ross, you are an idiot. This is a 5-star player. He's going to, of course, have a big commitment deal. He's not going to want to do it on some radio show out in Northwest Kansas. So it certainly has been an interesting time out in Goodland, America, watching this whole thing unfold.
Linkon comes from a very athletic family. His older brother, Leighton, of course, is now matriculated to the University of Kansas, where he'll play football. His older sister, Lindsay, was on a couple of state championship basketball teams there at Goodland, I believe playing volleyball at Regis University in Colorado. But sometimes it's that youngest sibling that is pegged as the best one of the lot. Was that the case for Linkon? Do you remember when he was coming up and you would watch Linkon Cure's athletics or Lindsay Cure? And do you remember hearing, hey, just wait for the younger brother?
You know, I when you say that, I don't remember anybody saying that in particular. All the Cure kids, Lauren being the oldest probably, and this is no offense to Lauren, but she was probably the one that wasn't the most into sports, but then came Leighton and Lindsay and Linkon. And then there's Libby, who's going to be a junior this coming. She's the final of that Cure family of 5 that's making their way up through the high school ranks. But, I think everybody thought that Linkon would be a good athlete. But I don't know. I don't think anybody thought it would blow up to this extent. I don't think anybody thought he was going to be one of 32 players in the nation that are a 5-star recruit in college football. I don't think anybody saw anything like that. But he just slowly, he really kind of developed it. And that's the funny thing too about this thing, Dan, is that when he was a freshman, he didn't play a lick of varsity football. He played a little bit of varsity basketball, but he didn't. And of course he ran track and he was good there. Sophomore year of football, he was hurt a majority of the time. He had 1 touchdown catch in an overtime game that helped the Cowboys get a win. And that was all he did really his sophomore year, because he dealt with injuries, because he grew so much in his freshman and sophomore years. His body just didn't really adapt to it. And then after that, his junior year, he finally was healthy, and he had a really good year. Everyone knows the numbers, over 900 yards and 16 total touchdowns, and they tried to do everything. They tried to force feed him the ball a ton in his junior campaign, and it's amazing how he going into his junior year of high school. I don't even know if football was maybe going to be his sport. Honestly, I was so impressed with his sophomore campaign as a basketball player, with how he could shoot from the outside and could score. I thought maybe he'd go into basketball, but he went to that elite performance camp, I think in Salina. Everyone saw how big he was, how fast he was, and it just blew up from there. I mean, it's really been about only 13 months, Dan, that he's really been getting recruited at this kind of level.
Ross Volkmer is the voice of the Goodland High School Cowboys, host of the Morning Blitz on Fox Sports Tri-State AM 730 in Goodland, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline to give us some insight into Linkon Cure, the new K-State football commitment. When did you realize during that junior season that, okay, this isn't just a good football player, this is a different cat. This is somebody who has a real chance to be a big-time prospect?
Dan, it's one of those deals where I still kind of like, I almost, and this is nothing against Linkon whatsoever, I'm almost just a little bit hesitant, because I'm always like, we're playing 3A football. It's not 6A football, but he's out here dominating 3A football because he's out here making, he's running by everybody. He's making these really impressive catches where they throw the ball up and he jumps above everybody and makes the grab. But, I just don't know if I could, like, how do you compare 3A Western Kansas football to, 6A football in Topeka, for example, or how do you compare that? But to me, he is a 5-star athlete. Like, when you are that big and you can run that fast and you can jump that high, you just don't see it. And like you said, I've been in Western Kansas for a while. I've seen some really good athletes like Jordan Shippers at Colby. Calvin Stapp at Colby was another good athlete. Heck, like we mentioned, Linkon Cure was a really good athlete, but Linkon is just, it's the combination of everything: the size, the speed, the athleticism. It's just that complete blend that really pushes him over the edge of other athletes. And honestly, Dan, I mean, maybe you can attest to this too, but it's something about, with the power of social media and these elite performance camps, more kids from Western Kansas are getting more looks than they ever did before. And I think it's a great thing.
What kind of player is K-State getting? Obviously, it's TE, tight end, next to his name on all the recruiting services at 6'6", 220. He certainly has the height for the tight end position. But do you see in him the sort of athleticism and athletic potential that he might be somebody who ends up maybe even playing on the outside at times, a versatile receiver? Or do you believe that he'll bulk up and end up an inline tight end like some of the great ones that we've seen come through over the years?
If it was me, and I don't know what Matt Wells and Coach Kleiman and those guys have in store for him, I don't know what they've told him per se. I think honestly, if he can, if the 5-star becomes a lot of, hey, we need to have this 5-star out here playing sometimes. And I'm really intrigued to see what happens when he's able to get to campus, in a year from now. I want to see what he's able to do, because I think if he stays like he is, he's probably going to end up playing outside for a while, I would guess. I could see him more in a flex position where he can be in the line if they need him to be there, but they're going to flex him out. He has the athleticism to play outside. I know some schools that were recruiting him really wanted to try to put him on the outside to start, and as he got bigger, then move him in line to play in the tight end spot. Because to me, his athleticism and size, he's so athletic. I don't know if I would compare him. This is no offense to this guy, but to me, he's not a typical tight end. He's more of a pass catching tight end. And so to me, I guess I would see him being one where he starts outside, and then as he gets bigger and he improves on his blocking, which I think is one thing he's got to get better at in the coming years, is his physicality, especially against bigger bodied guys. That's going to be the big thing to see. So I'm intrigued to see how he develops his blocking skills when he gets to the next level, and how they make him bigger, and they will make him bigger. And it's hard to imagine a guy getting a whole lot bigger than Linkon Cure, but they're going to make him a whole lot bigger. I can guarantee it.
Couple more questions for Ross Volkmer, voice of the Goodland High School Cowboys, joining us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. 5-star athletic talent, certainly, but by any account we've heard, also a 5-star person as well. What kind of kid is Linkon Cure. What's an example, a representative story of the kind of person he is and how he's handled all of this?
Yeah, it's if they made a 6-star in person, it'd probably be Linkon Cure. And really, it all starts kind of from that family. His folks were always very, 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 they were great parents. They did a great job with all their kids about raising straight-laced young men and women that were always respectful and always courteous and still are. They're always fun to visit. They're always great to visit with. And he's an unbelievable person. He's gonna work extra hard in the weight room. He's gonna work extra hard in the classroom. He's gonna do a lot of the things, and he's gonna be that guy that you can put out there in the community, and he's gonna be great helping out. That he's such a great human being, and I give a lot of credit to his parents and his family for doing that. And another example of how he gets. So they have this. So the signing day, and Dan, you've been in the Max Jones Fieldhouse before, where the Cowboys and Cowgirls play basketball. That's the first time I think that I can ever remember they had a commitment ceremony there. They've had some other ones in the school auditorium, but they had to get the Max, and they filled up half of the bleachers in the Max, and there was a good number of kids that came to watch this commitment ceremony. Well, after it was done, and he got done doing interviews with the television crews and the 24/7 sports and all that stuff. When he got done with that, he took time, I bet another half hour or so, talking with little kids, taking pictures with little kids that wanted pictures. He took every single time and moment he had before he had to go on to something else. But he takes time for the youth, and he's just a great human being, a wonderful young man to be around. And once again, I give a lot of credit to him and his family.
Do you know if he plans to graduate at semester and try and get out to Manhattan for spring practice, or will he, like many athletes who play at like the 3A or lower levels, does he want to stick around and see things out with his friends and finish a basketball or a track season?
Last I talked to him, he told me he was planning on going the entire senior year. I think he's got aspirations of having a good senior year of football, getting into the basketball side of things, and then, Goodland boys, made it to the state finals and lost this last year, and really only graduate one key piece in point guard Manny Gonzalez, a big key piece, but they only really graduate him. Everybody else that was a key contributor, including All-Stater Brady Brumbaugh and Linkon Cure, they're all back. And so they have the aspirations of going back to Hutchinson for the 3A state tournament and trying to win that basketball title. I know Lincoln, that's part of his goal too, with his friends, with his teammates and stuff. And then I know he wants to run track again, because I really get the sense, he hasn't told me this, but I really get the sense that he wants to break some state records at the state track meet if he can. So he really wants to break more state records if he can do that. So I see him sticking around and not going back in to not going into the college realm until that, June of a year from now, heading to the rinks. He's going to want to have that entire senior year, excuse me.
A lot of eyes in purple-colored glasses will have their eyes trained towards Goodland this fall and throughout this upcoming academic sports season to check out the 5-star tight end recruit Linkon Cure as he takes the gridiron and maybe the hardwood in the track as well for Goodland High School. Ross Volkmer is the play-by-play voice of the Goodland High Cowboys. He hosts the Morning Blitz on Fox Sports Tri-State AM 730 out there in Goodland. Gracious enough to join us this afternoon. Ross, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks so much for the insight on the newest Wildcat commit.
Glad to do it. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. That is Ross Volkmer. And that's going to wrap up this 2 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Coming up at the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to talk some Chiefs. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest will join us as our Chiefs insider. That's all coming up from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on this Friday, July 5th. Hi, hello. How the heck are you? Hope you're enjoying your Friday, whether you're back to the grind after a day off, whether the grind didn't stop and you had to work the 4th of July. We didn't. We took yesterday off. I hope that didn't frighten anyone. I hope you didn't turn on the radio yesterday and hear some national sports talk and wonder, oh, no, they finally did it. They finally canceled 580 Sports Talk. It must have been Dan's fault. He must have said something wild out of pocket. No, we were just taking the 4th of July off. You know, it's a company holiday, so we took it off. We are back today. Maybe you had yesterday off and you're back to the grind today. Maybe you just took today off, or maybe you're working right through it. Whatever you're up to, appreciate you listening on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580 WIBW.com, or on our live video stream, which you can find on Facebook, WIBW News, on Twitter, 580 Sports Talk, or on our YouTube page. And I encourage you to check out the YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube. You can watch the live show. You can get notifications when we go live. You can watch all of our archived shows. We've got shows going back to Halloween of 2022. If you want to go back and see what we were talking about in February of 2023, spoiler alert, we were talking about the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl. But we were talking about other things too. If you want to go find out what it was, what we were talking about a year ago today, you can do that. You have the ability to go and check out all of that archive content over at our YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. You can watch us make these sounds with our mouths that we make on the radio for 4 hours a day. I'm Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is here as well. Trenton Craxner is across the glass, our producer engineer. That's the three-man power trio for you here on this Friday afternoon, taking you up to 6 o'clock and then giving you a little overtime today as well before we hand things off to the Royals Baseball Network. The Royals and the Rockies, the Dan Lucero Bowl, if you will, a 3-game series at Coors Field. First pitch tonight at 7:10, pregame at 6:30 on the Royals Baseball Network. We'll talk some more Royals baseball a little bit later on in the program. They have a big problem, and it starts at the top. We'll talk about their leadoff dilemma a little bit later on and preview this weekend's Royals-Rockies series as well. Coming up later this hour, Matt Derrick is going to join us, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. Lots to talk about with Matt. We're only 11 days away from the start of training camp. We are getting so close to the start of Chiefs training camp. Are they done roster building, or is there another addition or two they might make to the 90-man training camp roster? We'll ask Matt about that. Also get his thoughts on the Chiefs secondary, which we've talked about a lot this week because it's getting a lot of love nationally, and Pro Football Focus gave it some love as well. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We also have a pair of tickets to see Kenny Chesney at Arrowhead Stadium tomorrow to give away. Yes, I said tomorrow night, Kenny Chesney at Arrowhead Stadium with special guests, Zach Brown Band, Megan Maroney, and Uncle Cracker. Yes!
There you go.
No script, off the dome, just like that. You got 2 tickets to give away, so be listening for your cue to call. We're going to give those tickets away to one lucky listener before too long here on 580 Sports Talk, so be listening for that. Do want to talk about the Chiefs and the Chiefs secondary. We have talked quite a bit about it this week relating to a couple of individual portions of the secondary, but Pro Football Focus, as they've done for every position group in the NFL, has ranked the secondaries in the National Football League. Person responsible for writing up these rankings is John Costco, not Costco, John Costco with 2 Ks, writing up the top secondaries in the National Football League. The New York Jets at the top of the list. Sauce Gardner referred to on this as the best cornerback in the league. Spencer, do you think Sauce Gardner's the best cornerback in the NFL?
I think if he's not, he's 1 or 2 right now.
I don't know who I'd take ahead of him.
Yeah.
To be honest, he's really, really good. Some of the other guys who are that good, I don't think are quite on his level or starting to kind of slip age-wise, like Stephon Gilmore. Patrick Surtain, the second, wasn't very good last year, truth be told. We'll talk a little bit about the Broncos a little bit later on. Like Darius Slay and James Bradbury were both kind of sorry last year. Like L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie are maybe in the conversation. But yeah, Sauce Gardner, if you want to call him the best cornerback in the league, as Pro Football Focus does, I cannot argue with that. They also mentioned K-State Wildcat DJ Reed as a, quote, excellent cornerback in his own right, which is true. He's been really good his whole career. The San Francisco, Seattle, now the Jets. DJ Reed's just been steadily excellent in his career. So the Jets, the number one secondary in the NFL. Then the San Francisco 49ers, led by Charvarius Ward, former Chief. The Bills, number 3. That feels excessive. I don't know how I feel about D. Delaney and Taylor Rapp as your starting safeties with Mike Edwards. Like that's what they're going to do at safety? That's a bit of a downgrade from Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. And also, apparently, Christian Benford got a really good grade from Pro Football Focus last year. I don't know a single Bills fan who trusts him. I don't think they trust Christian Benford. Certainly, I like Rasul Douglas. Teron Johnson's a good defender in the slot, too. Like, they've got some guys. I just think that's really high for the Bills at number 3. The Ravens 4th. On the strength of Kyle Hamilton alone, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
To be completely honest with you, Kyle Hamilton's unbelievable. Miami, 5th. Jalen Ramsey should be back. Javon Holland was really good last year when he wasn't hurt. They signed Kendall Fuller. They signed Jordan Poyer. Miami, a top 5 secondary. Cleveland, number 6. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, the 2nd. They got some really good players. Seattle, 7th. As the resident Seahawks fan in the room, that feels steep. I like Devin. Like I think Devin Witherspoon is going to be a star in the league. I think he's going to be an all-pro caliber slot defender, if that's where, certainly in Mike McDonald's defense, I'm really excited to see what it looks like with Witherspoon, who was excellent as a rookie. Julian Love's a decent safety. Tariq Woolen was, or Reek Woolen, I guess is what he decided to go by last year. Maybe he should go back because he reeked last year. He wasn't very good. He was awesome as a rookie. 6th-round pick, felt like a real find, but I didn't think he was very good, even though this write-up says he was arguably more consistent down to down. No, that's not true. I'm sorry. Watch the games. That's not true. There were people arguing with a straight face to bench Reek Woolen last year. And I think he did get benched for a game. So Seattle being 7 feels a little high. Green Bay 8th. Xavier McKinney, big time free agent signing for them. Jair Alexander and Javon Bullard are good players. I think Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in the league. And then the Chiefs check in, number 9. Here's what John Costco writes. The defending Super Bowl champions lost shutdown cornerback L'Jarius Sneed in free agency, but they returned most of the core that held the team together back when the offense was trying to get going. Trent McDuffie is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, while the rest of the secondary is underrated. Safety Shamari Connor and cornerback Joshua Williams are not household names, but both graded above 75.2, that's out of 100, in coverage in 2023.
I agree with that. In the fact is, like, McDuffie is the biggest name and one of the only widely known names that's returning to the secondary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Besides Justin Reed, right? But they're underrated because the playing time that these guys got before, they played well in, but not tremendous amounts of playing time, correct?
Yeah, there haven't been, like, the guys who are going to start at cornerback this year. Joshua Williams has not been a full-time starter, and Shamari Connor has not been a full-time starter. Yeah. And right now, it feels like those are your other 2 starters at cornerback. Brian Cook going to start at one of the safety spots, but even he only got about half a season of starts last year before he got hurt. So yeah, there's relative inexperience when it comes to just raw games started, not necessarily games played, but games started. You do have some inexperience when it comes to this defensive back group. But there's Joshua Williams' name again. And he's kind of been a recurring theme of the week because back earlier this week, we were looking at NFL.com, Bucky Brooks, and his all breakout team for 2024. And he mentioned Joshua Williams. And not like in a pile of 7 or 8 cornerbacks he thinks are going to have good years. No, it was 11 guys on each side of the ball. he's one of the 2 cornerbacks that Bucky Brooks singled out as a guy who stands to break out. There is opportunity on the outside, and according to Pro Football Focus's grades, he was a top 25 cornerback in the NFL last year. McDuffie, by the way, 4th, graded 4th best out of any cornerback in the NFL last season. L'Jarius Sneed is a loss. I'm not trying to talk around the fact that it will be difficult, at least at first, to replace not just Sneed's production, because he was so good last year and did everything that secondary needed him to do. So you have to replace his production and you have to replace his versatility. But also, I think he was kind of a heart and soul player for that defense, a real leader of that secondary. And that's going to be difficult to replace right off the bat. But there are a lot of really talented guys in this group. And if Connor and Williams can take 2 starting roles, is there a chance? Is it talking out of school, Spencer, to suggest this could be a better secondary than last year's?
I don't think so. I think that there's just so much potential in this secondary, and if one guy happens to go down, there's still another guy there that has great potential.
Yeah, because we haven't talked about your boy Najee Johnson. We haven't talked about Jalen Watson. We haven't talked about Kamal Haddon or the safety they drafted from Washington State.
I'm blank.
Oh my God, why am I blanking on his name?
Jaden Hicks.
Jaden Hicks, thank you. Who I think would have an opportunity if called upon to step in. Maybe he's the 3rd safety this year, in much the same way that Brian Cook was the 3rd safety as a rookie. Like, it's really deep. And if Joshua Williams is able to step in on the outside, then you free up Trent McDuffie to be the L'Jarius Sneed type player this year, where if the slot matchup is the tough one, that's where Trent McDuffie's going to be. If it's on the outside, Trent McDuffie's going to be on the outside. If there's a guy that you're concerned about on the schedule who is going to be a really tough cover, Trent McDuffie follows him around for an afternoon or an evening, more accurately. Maybe he's the Jamar Chase guy in week 2 against the Bengals.
Who are we not talking about as well that was pushed into playing time in that secondary role last year in the AFC Championship and had a pick?
Deion Bush?
Yeah, Deion Bush.
I think in a perfect world, you would rather just have Deion Bush be a special teams guy if he even makes the 53. But the fact that he was able to step in that role and play well and make a decisive play in the 4th quarter of that game, I do think that spoke to something bigger picture about how prepared that secondary group is on a week in, week out basis. And something that gets talked about with all of these guys, McDuffie and Cook, it was talked about a lot when they were rookies. They've talked a lot about it with Connor as far as what's getting put on his plate, what got put on his plate last year as a rookie, what's getting put on his plate in OTAs. Justin Reed's another example of this. Smart football players. High football IQ. I don't know. This is probably a bigger discussion topic for a different day, and one that you could probably ask 10 different football people and you might get 10 different answers. But as far as football IQ goes, like the ability to adjust to different roles and be in different places and adjust on the fly and react quickly and just make smart football plays, is it maybe more important to have that in your secondary than it is anywhere else on the field?
I think so.
I think you could argue it is, right?
Yeah. And that was what I was trying to get at, was just the depth that they have and the fact that Deion Bush is a guy that was cut but made the practice squad last year and had to be pushed to the active roster in mid-December with the injuries. And then, hey, guess what? He's playing in an AFC Championship game and he's intercepting Lamar Jackson. So he's a guy that you don't want to have him play, but this just goes to show what a backup like him has the ability to do.
Yeah, and depth and way they're coached, the way they're schemed by Steve Spagnuolo, I would rank them higher. I would jump them into the top 5. Even with the loss of L'Jarius Sneed, I would jump them over Green Bay, Seattle, Cleveland, I would have them ahead of Buffalo. I don't even think I'd have Buffalo in my top 10, to be honest with you. That safety group is yuck.
Yeah, I think I'd have them between the 5 and 7 range somewhere.
Yeah, I think they are a little low here from PFF. For the record, it's the Saints at number 10. Safety Tyrann Mathieu graded top 15 at his position. What? What? I got to check now. Is this right up from 2021? What? The Lions 11th. I feel like that's a little low. Well, I like Brian Branch a lot. And they've added some defensive backs this offseason. I think they can be a lot better than they were last year. Tampa Bay 12, Dallas 13, Cincinnati 14, and the Titans 15. You know who we have not mentioned? Another AFC West team. Until we get to 16, that's where the Denver Broncos are ranked. They've got a brand new safety room. They're going to start Caden Stearns. Whew, good luck with that. Jaquan McMillan was really good in the slot last year. They have, I think he's one of the most underrated slot defenders in the game. McMillan was super. He had a pick of Mahomes. That was a really outstanding play. And Surtain, I thought, took a bit of a step back last year, but I think he's still an elite guy. So the Broncos, I think, are fine in the secondary, at least at corner. I think they're pretty solid. I worry about that safety room. I don't think Brandon Jones is an adequate replacement for Justin Simmons. The Raiders were right behind them at 17th. They graded as the 11th best unit last year, thanks in part to cornerback Jack Jones and safety Trevon Moehrig. As usual, this group will have a difficult dealing with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, but they're battle-tested enough to handle the high-flying AFC West. The Chargers are 20th. Alohi Gilman was their highest-graded defensive back last year. Derwin James, of course, when he's healthy, is always solid, but he struggled in 2023, according to the PFF grades. Asante Samuel Jr., I think, is fine. Nothing more than that. Who would you guess has the worst secondary in the NFL?
I don't know, but I know who has number 31.
Are you guessing it's your beloved Washington Commanders?
I already saw that.
Oh.
I didn't flick down to 32.
The Commanders actually 30th.
30th. Okay.
Yeah, 31st are the Giants. So you're not even the worst NFC East secondary. You got that going for you. Arizona, the Cardinals, number 32. They drafted 4 rookie defensive backs in 2024. That's usually a sign. You draft 4 players at the same position. That's usually a sign you're not feeling great about the guys you have.
And then even then, it's going to take a bit for those guys to get adjusted to the game.
Real quick, Bleacher Report yesterday put out a list of 10 bargain bin NFL free agents who can still help NFL teams in 2024. These 10 guys still on the market. The Chiefs have been pretty quiet of late. They haven't done any adding to the roster on the margins. We haven't seen like a Carlos Dunlap type of signing with 11 days left until training camp. But here are the 10 guys that Bleacher Report lists that probably aren't going to cost a lot of money at this stage of the offseason, but might still be able to help a team. Safety Jamal Adams, formerly of the Seahawks and Jets. Linebacker Quan Alexander, who played for the Steelers last year, ruptured his Achilles. Offensive lineman David Bakhtiari, longtime Green Bay Packer. The Chiefs listed as a potential suitor for Bakhtiari, for what it's worth. Bakhtiari, excuse me. Stephon Gilmore, the aforementioned cornerback, most recently of the Dallas Cowboys. The Chiefs are listed as a potential suitor here as well. Carl Lawson, edge rusher, didn't play much in 2023 with the Jets. Yannick Ngakoue, who feels like he's played for so many teams. How many teams has Ngakoue played for? Ngakoue, excuse me. He's a regular in my immaculate football grid.
Yeah.
I use him a lot. He played with the Bears last year, broke his ankle. Emmanuel Ogbah, former Chief, currently on the free agent list still. Ogbah last seen with the Miami Dolphins. Hunter Renfrow, not the right fielder for the Royals, the slot man for the Raiders. He is still without a job. Offensive tackle Donovan Smith, of course, former Chief, and Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints, or most recently of the New Orleans Saints. Of those 10, Spencer, any of those interest you as a guy that the Chiefs ought to be considering this far out or this close to the start of camp? Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this list of guys too, right?
I mean, if you're completely lost at left tackle, maybe you bring back Smith, or you throw a flyer at Bakhtiari to see where he's at.
I mean, I think that would be
That'll be last ditch effort.
Right.
That would be, you are nowhere close to where you think Kingsley Suamataia can be, and Wanye Morris just isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, and I don't feel like that's a move they make right now.
No.
I feel like they're at least
That's a partway through training camp.
Yeah, that's like you get through like 2 weeks of training camp, and it's like, oh my gosh, we cannot have one of these guys protecting Mahomes' blind side. That would be a bit of a alarming decision that the Chiefs would make if they would have to make it. I think they're pretty settled on the offensive line. I don't think Renfro makes a lot of sense. Stephon Gilmore, I think, is really good. But again, we just talked about how good these young corners for the Chiefs are. I don't think they're going to go get a veteran and push one of those guys out.
Well, and Stephon Gilmore still unsigned. Like, why?
Yeah, at this point, too,
like how much
if
is
you
left?
don't have a job, there are some questions, right?
Yeah.
Unless there are guys who are explicitly telling their agents or having their agent tell teams, hey, we're going to wait and see what the market, what happens. Like, guys always get hurt in camp, right?
Yeah.
There's always camp injuries. There's always preseason injuries. There's going to be a contender maybe that gets desperate. And there might be some of these guys who are intentionally playing the waiting game. Quan Alexander coming off a torn Achilles, like, I think the Chiefs linebackers 1 through 3 are pretty good. I wouldn't hate taking a flyer on another veteran linebacker so you don't get stuck with Jack Cochran playing a bunch. I think we saw what that looked like against the Packers last year, and it wasn't good. Again, that's you're pretty far down the depth chart. You've got bigger problems if you're relying on Jack Cochran to wear the green dot, but maybe somebody there with a little bit more veteran experience. Like I said, I don't think they're going to add to the edge group. I don't think they're going to add to the wide receiver group. I think their solutions there are in-house. I love Jamal Adams as a player, or at least I loved Jamal Adams as a player. I think that his game-making or game-breaking playmaking ability is kind of more in theory than in practice anymore. I just think he's shot, unfortunately. So I don't know. I am. There's no running backs on this list. I'm still surprised that the Chiefs haven't brought in an extra running back.
Yeah.
That they're going into camp with Pacheco and Clyde as their only proven NFL running backs. That's really surprising to me. That would be the one move. If they made one before training camp, if they added a veteran to their 90-man, that would be where I would think they would do it. But again, maybe Jerick McKinnon is at the stage of his football life where he's told Brett Veach, hey man, I just want to kick it and I don't want to come to camp. Don't make me come to camp. I'll be RB3 and pick up blitzes and catch passes out of the backfield. Just don't make me come to camp.
Yeah.
Other than outside of that though, I don't know. I think they might be done roster building at this point.
Yeah. I don't see any other running backs, right? Like, I'm still not happy. Like, I really thought Edwards-Helaire was done. I didn't think he was coming back after what happened last year. Ineffectiveness, I guess, would be the word. I just anticipated them to go with somebody else. Like, they had who'd they have come in for a visit
At running back?
Yeah, the former Raven.
Oh, Dobbins.
Yes, I thought they were gonna get JK for sure, but he probably wanted more time because Pacheco is probably gonna get most of the time.
He wanted to be like a clear cut, a chance at being maybe RB1.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Dobbins can't stay healthy, but he ended up going elsewhere. That was an indication right there, I thought, at that point in the offseason that, the Chiefs are going to be interested in that, but just never came to pass. Before we take a break, we'll come back with On Second Thought. I need caller number 3 to 785-272-9429. Caller number 3, I'm hooking up with a pair of tickets to see Kenny Chesney at Arrowhead Stadium tomorrow. Caller number 3, 785-272-9429. We have more 580 Sports Talk coming up next. Time for a round of On Second Thought here on 580 Sports Talk. But first, congratulations to Barbara from Topeka, the winner of a pair of tickets to see the Kenny Chesney show with the Zach Brown Band, Megan Maroney, and Uncle Cracker tomorrow night at Arrowhead Stadium. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. And Barbara, congratulations on the tickets. All right. On
Hey,
Second
Barbara,
Thought.
I'm jealous.
You're jealous. You're going to, you got a big show you're going to here in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, Luke Holmes, DC.
Luke Combs in DC. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people be jealous of you getting to go see that.
I'm also going to see Jelly Roll in November.
Oh, there you go.
I just got those tickets at the T-Mobile Center.
Oh, T-Mobile Center. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that won't be your first time. You've seen basketball there.
Yeah.
You haven't seen a concert there. All right, Spencer, you had on Second Thought for us this week?
Yes, it definitely involves my thought on this Royals bullpen. I thought they were back. And yesterday just felt like a repetition. Like you put a player in, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Walks, runs, walks, run, walk, run. It just felt like that watching and following along with the game last night.
Yeah, frustrating night to be sure for the Royals.
I thought they had turned a page in the last week and a half.
My on second thought is I thought that I would be able to fall asleep to the sound of fireworks last night. My son managed it. He's a month old. My wife managed it. I could not manage it.
Well,
I had a little trouble. They were loud. I had a little trouble last night.
In a way, it's probably a good thing, though, right? Because if you were able to fall asleep, your wife was able to fall asleep, but your baby wasn't.
That's true.
Somebody would have had to have been up.
Better the way it happened than it had happened that way.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Like, you got to put a positive spin on it sometimes.
Yeah, he did. He slept right through him like a champ, and then he woke up at 1:30 and then again at 4:30. I've been up since 4:30. I played golf this morning. I'm on fumes, brother. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Hey, guess what?
It's every bit of Friday.
It's like the weekend coming up.
It is. That's true. I'll be able to catch up then. We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side, Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest joins us for a Chiefs Insider here on 580 WIBW. Let's go to Kansas City and chat with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Chiefs insider and joins us every Friday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Matt, how was your 4th of July?
Well, I was going to say quiet and uneventful. It was not quiet.
No.
My neighborhood, it's been World War III the last couple of nights. So.
Yep. No, I feel that. I'll tell you what. And then trying to get my my 4-week-old to sleep at 10 o'clock. He slept through it like a champ. I did not. So that's really more of a me problem. But I'm just grateful that was able to do that. All 10 fingers, 10 toes, everything's intact.
Hey, there you go. That's the best way to make it through the 4th of July.
Amen to that. All right, let's talk some football, Matt. We're creeping closer to the start of training camp, and this has become rather inadvertently Joshua Williams week on 580 Sports Talk. We have talked about him a lot this week. He ended up on Bucky Brooks of NFL.com, named him to his all breakout team for 2024. And this is a guy, like when we talk about the Chiefs secondary, obviously Trent McDuffie gets the headlines because he's the returning all-pro. But Joshua Williams is a guy who is getting a lot of attention this offseason, had a really good Pro Football Focus grade this past year. Do you feel like he's got the inside track to be a starting outside corner opposite Trent McDuffie?
I mean, right now, I think you would say that he probably does because he had the most work during off-season workouts and OTAs as the player opposite Trent. And part of that is Jalen Watson has, a little bit of a ding up, I think it was hamstring. He's also come back from the shoulder surgery. So he wasn't a full go through most of OTAs. Najee Johnson was ramping up from the ACL, and he's still going to be, this is still going to be the first year back. And, usually after those knee surgeries, you're not 100% your first year. You're not all the way back. So, he's had the best offseason of the 3 potential candidates to play opposite Trent. And so I think that gives him the biggest head start. The other thing that he's got going for him is that, he was always the guy that in that 2022 draft, especially of those corners, Trent McDuffie was the established product. He was the guy that you felt like, even though the size wasn't there, he did everything else well. He was the most developed product that could play immediately. That's why he was a first-round pick. Jalen Watson, didn't maybe have the high ceiling of some of the other players, but he had a low floor, and he probably had a better year, you could say, as a rookie than Josh Williams did. The book on Williams was, incredible size. He's like 6'2", 6'3", good. He's still kind of building his strength. And the feeling was that, hey, yeah, he played at a lower level at Fayetteville State, but he's got the highest ceiling of anybody. He might have a pretty low floor, but he's got a really high ceiling. And you're seeing him come along. And Tyrann Mathieu, I remember, once told me that, hey, young guys, especially some of the guys that play at lower level colleges and less competition, it's not year 1 to year 2 when they break out. It's year 2 to year 3. And Josh Williams had a good year too. There's no doubt about it. He improved last year. Question is, is he ready to make that big leap? Based on what we've seen during the OTAs, I think he's positioned to do that. I think the Chiefs are interested in seeing him do that. It will be interesting to me to see if he opens up as the number 1 guy outside opposite Trent, or Najee's able to nudge him out. But I think, hey, all 3 of those guys should push each other, and that's what's going to help, I think, all 3 of them be better players.
You mentioned the size for Joshua Williams. He's actually bigger than L'Jarius Sneed was. He's 6'3". Sneed's just 6'1", a little bit shy of 200 pounds. So it's a big physical cornerback. That make him maybe more of a fit for the things that Steve Spagnuolo wants to do than maybe some of the slighter of build defensive backs the Chiefs have?
Yeah, and that's the one thing that maybe has gotten lost a little bit with Josh is, the physicality, because he's played behind 2 guys who are really physical corners. Obviously, L'Jarius Sneed's never afraid of contact, probably one of the better run defenders as a corner that I've ever seen, especially live in person. Trent is right there too, and obviously he plays pretty physical too, despite the size. But Josh, especially you watch him on special teams, and that's where, he's really established himself the last couple of years. Has been on every special teams. He can be a gunner, he can be a coverage guy, he can play pretty physical. There were times, and even with this new kickoff rule, Chiefs have experimented a little bit with Josh Williams as a returner. I don't know if that's going to get to see much, Maybe it's a little thing you keep in reserve. There's maybe some specific packages. But I think that goes back to, once again, just his size and physicality. I don't think we've gotten a chance to see it fully on display. There's sometimes a knock that maybe, Josh plays a little bit too much with his hands, and that's going to maybe cost him at some point. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed has gotten away with it too. So, I mean, I think that, maybe it's going to, if he develops into the corner you think he can be, it's going to be a little bit of the cost of doing business. I think with his size and physical abilities, he doesn't have to use his hands as much. So if he could back off of that, I think he would probably be a more effective player, especially if, the officials start watching him pretty closely. But I've got no worries about him from that standpoint. That if he's the guy that ends up replacing L'Jarius, I don't think you're going to miss anything from a physicality standpoint, especially as the guy that can support the run and play against big physical receivers.
Do you think the Chiefs will run as much 3 safety stuff as they've done in recent years? And if they do, is that a role where we might see the rookie out of Washington State, Jaden Hicks, or might they go with somebody who has a little bit more experience, or maybe even use Shamari Connor in that role and have somebody else in the slot in those situations?
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting to see how they do deploy those guys, because Shamari Connor certainly seems like the guy who, I mean, teams are all a little bit different about who they use as a nickel and their dimes. I mean, a lot of teams, it's going to be you think of it as a nickel corner and a dime safety. The Chiefs might be a little bit of the opposite. Shamari certainly seems like their number one slot guy at this point. And he's technically a safety. I mean, I don't see him really changing his position or anything. I think they're still going to keep him in that safety room. And they like the fact that, they got Connor and Justin Reed out there. You've got a couple of guys that it's a lot like the way that the Chiefs use Kendall Fuller and Tyrann Mathieu there, 2019. You've got 2 guys that you don't have to switch up your defense depending on what the offense is doing. You can put those guys on either side of the field. They can both play in the slot, cover a wide receiver. You can be more flexible with that. And I think you're going to see a lot of Shamari Connor in the slot, especially with, Trent McDuffie playing outside more. We might see different looks. I mean, you might see some nickel and dime packages designed with Nick Jones in the slot, and Shamari Connor is a safety further back. I do think that, Connor is better built to probably being either in the slot or in the backfield, whereas, Jaden Hicks, if he's in the field, I think you probably want him more in the box. He's definitely that kind of physical safety. He can play on the back too, but I think those are the 2 places you want him. So he and Connor kind of, probably complement each other pretty well as far as, which one's on the field in specific situations. And then, you factor in, obviously, Justin Reed and Brian Cook are going to be your starters barring any injuries. But those guys are flexible too. I mean, they can play multiple positions. So that's what Steve Spagnuolo really likes, especially with his safeties, is the ability to move them in different spots and feel comfortable that they can play multiple roles. And there's no doubt. I mean, they may ask Shamari Connor to just play every position. I don't think we'll do that to Jaden Hicks right out of the box. I think they're going to limit him a little bit just because he's a rookie. And they did it a little bit with Connor last year. I mean, they obviously asked him to do a lot last year, but they're asking him to do even more in year 2. That's probably how they're going to use Hicks, is just sprinkle him in this year, and then next year is probably when he gets the big load dumped on him.
We're joined by Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider of ChiefsDigest.com, here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, we were talking about this earlier on in the show. We're talking about depth on the offensive side of the ball and talking about running back specifically. Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets re-signed later this offseason, but Jerick McKinnon is still kind of out there. Do you think there's an outside shot that he comes back and maybe he's kind of worked something out where he didn't have to come to training camp?
It's entirely possible. And, in each of the last couple of years, when McKinnon has signed, he has signed late. So, I mean, it is absolutely possible. You look at this Chiefs roster and you do kind of look and see, oh, right, this is a little bit of a lack of depth as far as a third down back. So I could definitely make a case that McKinnon fits. On the converse side, I think you'd also say, Jerick showed some signs of age catching up with him a little bit last year. And maybe the Chiefs are going to see if they can, survive without Jerick McKinnon. Or it's Jerick, he is older. Maybe you think of him as later in the season replacement. I mean, and there may be some other teams that think about Jerick McKinnon the same way. that maybe he's not a 17 game a season player anymore, but he's absolutely maybe a guy that can help you late in the season and into the playoffs. I mean, we're starting to see some teams use guys like that. I mean, the Chiefs have done that with a couple of players. Mike Pennell, I think, is a great example last year, and it might be used the same way this year, in that he gets the bulk of his playing time late in the year. That's probably how I would view Jerick McKinnon at this point, is that he's a part-time player, and you're probably better off getting the bulk of his snaps late in the season when you're trying to win games and win playoff games. But we'll see. I mean, but I think that's probably a little bit of the concern, is just about McKinnon's age at this point. He's obviously one of the smartest guys out there and is willing to leave it all out in the field. But after the core muscle injury last year, I mean, he came back in the Super Bowl. I don't think he was completely himself. Probably needed a little bit of the offseason to recover. Maybe teams are waiting for that too, to see how he looks when maybe he's completely healthy again.
And talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, do you think he still has an upside going into his 5th NFL season, where every year his number of yards and it seems like his effectiveness has dropped?
Yeah, I mean, you do think after 4 years in the league that a player is what the back of their football card says that they are. So I think you definitely feel that way with Clyde. But I think the other question is just, can he still be a useful player? And obviously the Chiefs feel like that he can be. Is it a matter of him just being maybe 100% healthy? Never really had, since his rookie year, and even his rookie year, he had some injuries. He's never really had that full, healthy season that's kind of let him go loose. Maybe he's a player that just is, waiting for that break. I mean, if the Chiefs had to play without Isaiah Pacheco for a few weeks, and Clyde was given, a month, to say to be himself, and, was injury free and able to go out there and play at his best, who knows? Maybe we see the same Clyde that we saw in year one. He really hasn't had that kind of opportunity, I don't think. At the same time, like you said, the efficiency has continued to go down over the years. How much of that is injury related? He's not the oldest guy, so you think there's still a little bit of juice in the tank. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, what his usage is this year. Pacheco has obviously had some points where, he's had some injuries here and there and some things. He's a tough guy. He's going to try and play through as much of it as he can, but it's the NFL. I mean, chances are you're going to need your number 2 running back at some point, and we'll see what Clyde's got then.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. He is our Chiefs insider, comes on with us every Friday afternoon at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Do you think the Chiefs are done adding on the margins to their roster? They have the 90 that they're going to go into camp with, or could you see them monitoring the veteran free agent market and seeing if there might be a veteran addition they could make that might be able to help them on the periphery?
Yeah, I think they'll probably continue to still monitor it a little bit. I mean, usually at this point, if the Chiefs make any moves, I mean, we've seen a little bit of all of them. I mean, and sometimes we've known it's coming, because you can say, hey, we know that there's a little, maybe a lack of depth at defensive end, and then the Chiefs bring in somebody like a Carlos Dunlap. I mean, we've seen the Chiefs do that, and we've also have seen them obviously find some opportunities where maybe there's a guy that they really liked out of college that's still a younger player, but it's kind of worn out their position in another team and comes to Kansas City. Reggie Ragland was a great example of that as a training camp trade. There's those opportunities, but I think most of the things you'll see right now will probably be on the real fringes. It's going to be, hey, is there a young undrafted guy or a player that has been bouncing around a couple of spots that they just want to get a look at? That's probably most of the moves I think you'll see this team make. The real question, I think, is going to be just a couple of spots. I mean, and defensive end is one of them. I mean, I could absolutely see that being a position that, the Chiefs wait to see until the pads come on to see what they've got at defensive end. If they feel like that they need some veteran reinforcements there, especially until Charles Omenihu comes back. And then obviously left tackle. I mean, they're going to see if Kingsley Suamadia and Wanya Morris can win that job and hold it down. And if not, by late July, early August, if they're in the market for a veteran left tackle, and there's a couple still out there, then I think we'll have our answer about whether or not they think that one of those guys can handle the job this year.
Got about 30 seconds here. Is wide receiver a spot where you think they would add, or do you think they're pretty satisfied going into camp with what they have, even with the possibility of a suspension to Rashee Rice?
I think they're pretty satisfied with the competition right now. I mean, it's going to be tough. They're going to have to probably let go of a guy that they like, that they think still has some upside. And, and that's going to be, it could be a Nico Remigio, it could be a Kadarius Toney, it could be a Sky Moore. I think it's going to be very difficult to keep all three of those guys. I mean, it's possible, but I think it's going to be a challenge. So I don't know. I mean, if the right player fell into their lap, maybe they'd be interested, but it's really tough to do that in an Andy Reid offense, to bring in a guy this late in the process and fit him into the offense.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. Outstanding Chiefs coverage over there. Go check it out, ChiefsDigest.com, and check him out on Fridays here on 580 Sports Talk as our Chiefs insider. Find him on Twitter, too, at Matt Derrick. Matt, always a pleasure. We look forward to talking to you again next Friday.
Same here, Dan. Take care, my friends.
That is Matt Derrick. That is a wrap on this 3 o'clock hour. Coming on the 4 o'clock hour, the Royals have made some bullpen transactions, just like we predicted to start the show. We'll tell you who's up, who's down, and who ought to be batting leadoff for a team that has not found a solution in the leadoff spot. That's coming up live from the Drive to Zero studios. This is 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3 of 580 Sports Talk. We're more than halfway home now on this Friday edition of the program. Dan, Spencer, Trenton, the Power Trio with you, taking you into the full weekend, although maybe, again, some of you are well into a 4-day weekend. If you took the 4th and the 5th off. Whatever you're up to on this Friday, on Facebook, 580 Sports Talk on Twitter, and on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe today. Jump in the live chat. We love to see folks in the YouTube live chat. It's a great way to interact with the show. Also, a great way to interact with the show is the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is that number. That's 785-272-9429. Still to come on the program today, we're going to talk a little Big 12 football. 8 teams are new to the league over the last 2 years. You have last year's new 4, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF. And you have this year's Pac-12 refugees, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. Which of those 8 schools is best positioned to be a perennial Big 12 contender? And which of those schools might just not be able to get to that status in this Big 12? They're going to have to settle for sort of also ran status in a league that feels very wide open in the future, in the near future as well, in 2024. So we'll talk some Big 12 football on the program. We still got sports headlines to get to at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. We will preview the Dan Lucero Bowl, the big baseball series this weekend, the biggest baseball series this weekend. I can't think of a bigger one. The Red Sox are playing the Yankees. Nah, bump that. Who cares? We got Royals Rockies at Coors Field. Real ball.
The battle for
my living room.
I-70. Does 70 go in there?
So it does. It very much does. Problem is the I-70 series is already taken. That is traditionally what we refer to the Cardinals-Royals rivalry as. Yes.
That's coming up next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, we will have they'll go the other way on I-70. They don't have to change interstates at all if they don't want to. They stay on 70 the whole way.
Well, I think they'll be flying.
You think major league teams fly, Spencer?
Yeah, I think so.
You don't think they bus?
I don't think they're like us peasants and drive everywhere.
You don't think the Royals jumped on a Greyhound, the charter bus? You don't think Bobby Witt Jr. was sleeping in the aisle?
No.
You get 5 or 6 guys in the aisle. So if you have to go to the bathroom, you have to walk on the armrests of the aisle seats. Maybe I'm a little intimately familiar with charter bus travel. My college sports career as an athlete was very short, but as a college sports broadcaster, spent some time on some charter buses.
Yeah.
And that was the worst part of any charter bus trip is guys would sleep. And, I'm not begrudging anybody the right to sleep, but particularly on like a basketball bus. And like, this is Division III basketball. We don't have a lot of 7-footers running around. But guys are like 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". You want to stretch out. Those 2 seats, they're only doing but so much for you. So they sleep in the aisle. And if you wanted to get back to the back of the bus where the bathroom was, you had to get over those guys one way or another. And the way you would do it is you would walk on the armrests of the aisle seats. And you just sort of climb your way all the way back to the aisle. So the goal was, of course, you never wanted to be the guy that had to use the restroom.
Yeah.
But hey, man, sometimes nature called. And you had to do what you had to do on a team bus. So
I could not imagine.
No, those were good times. Saw some, you watched some terrible movies. Probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. I watched on a charter bus with a bus full of guys. They were going, when was this? I don't know. It was the movie Dirty Grandpa with Robert De Niro.
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron's in that movie?
Yes.
Aubrey Plaza's
Robert
in that
De Niro
movie.
And Zac Efron.
Yes. Like people who should have, like, they can't have needed the check that badly.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that's the worst movie that's ever been made. I don't think there's ever.
It's also very corny.
I've never seen a worse movie in my life than Dirty Grandpa.
It's
Ever,
so
ever,
corny.
ever. Absolutely the worst. Saw some good movies on there though. The first time I saw The Big Lebowski was on a charter bus. Now that's my favorite movie. Shout out to the defensive line coach for DePaul University football who sang along with the entirety of I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in during the dream sequence scene in the movie. That was great. Shout out to Coach Reha. Anyway, the Royals did charter a plane, can confirm that they chartered a plane and have made it to Denver for the battle for Canarado, as Tyler puts it in the YouTube live chat.
Battle for the state of Kansas, because technically there is a Star Bonds bill that does allow professional teams to be attracted to the state of Kansas.
I wish the Rockies would move to Kansas.
That was purely a joke.
I wish they would move to Saskatchewan.
This is purely
the Goodland
a
Rockies.
Joke. Yeah, that was purely a joke.
I wish they
would
would move to the Northwest Territory, and I would never have to think of them ever again. I wish they would move to Ulaanbaatar. I hate them so much. I also love them so much. I'm all geared out today. Broke out the Gerardo Parra jersey. Like I'm geared up for this.
How
series.
did I not even notice that?
You didn't notice?
No, Gerardo,
that is National World Series champion.
That is
Baby Shark.
Baby.
Yeah, Baby Shark Gerardo Parra. Yeah, before that,
he
Gerardo
works for the Nats now.
Does he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Before that, he spent 3 seasons in Colorado. His first season in Colorado. So you guys know wins above replacement. Like if you got 2.5 wins above replacement, that's a pretty good year. You're a pretty good player if you're worth 2.5 wins above replacement. Gerardo Parra in 2016 with the Rockies was worth negative 2.5 wins above replacement. 2.5 wins below replacement, if you will. He did not recoup that value in 2017 and 2018, but those were both playoff teams, and he got some big hits. And as you know, being a Nats fan and remembering his impact on the 2019 World Series champions, tremendous vibes guy.
That's what I was going to say. I said, just because his numbers might not be there, you always need that guy off the bench who maybe question why he's on a roster for a little bit, but then he comes up and he does hit that pinch hit triple that you need, or pinch hit double that you need.
All-time vibes guy. Every good playoff team has the vibes guy. Who's the vibes guy in the 2015 Royals?
Johnny Gomes. Never appeared in a game, but great clubhouse leader.
Yeah, Raul Ibanez wasn't quite quirky enough to be the vibes guy. He was a different kind of vibes guy on 2014's team. But 2015 vibes guy, absolutely Johnny Gomes. I don't know how I forgot that. That was an easy one.
He might have gave one of the greatest speeches at the 2015 parade.
Oh, yeah. They let him speak. He had like 112 at bats all year, and they let him speak at the parade. That's the vibes guy. That is all-time vibes guy territory when you get to give a speech. I'll never forget Gerardo Parra on their the Nationals victory tour when they all were featured guests at a Capitals game.
Yeah.
And he was live streaming in the locker room before, and he was holding a hockey puck, and he referred to it as a baseball for the hockey.
I feel like,
which is, kind of true.
Am I a fake fan because of this? I did not realize that Gerardo Parra is not just, in fact, within the Nationals organization, he is their first base coach.
Oh, that's awesome. Man, I love Gerardo Parra. One of my favorites.
Because before that, it was Young, Delman Young.
Yeah,
I think it might have been Delman Young.
Wow, we're really remembering some guys now.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rockies Royals tonight. We're taking you up to pregame coverage, so we'll have a little overtime ahead of the pregame show tonight from the Royals Baseball Network at 6:30. First pitch tonight at 7:10. Cole Reagans, Kyle Freeland, the pitching matchup as the Royals take on the Rocks. Last year, Colorado took 2 out of 3 from the Royals in Kansas City. So the Royals trying to return the favor this time around. And they'll do so with a bit of a different looking roster, as predicted by myself and Trenton Kraxner earlier on the program. If you were listening at 2 o'clock, this is not breaking news. The Royals had to do something with their bullpen, and they have. The Royals have optioned right-handed reliever Carlos Hernandez to AAA Omaha, and they have transferred Dan Altavilla,
I said that.
To the 60-day. You predicted that. Yeah, we were all in on this.
Yeah, I said
Dan Altavilla transferred to the 60-day injured list. The Royals have called up left-handed reliever Walter Pennington, who is a one-armed man used by George Bluth to stage intricate scenarios to frighten George's children into good behavior. I'm being told that's J. Walter Weatherman from the TV show Arrested Development. My apologies. Walter Pennington actually deserves better than a cheap joke because he's having an awesome year at AAA Omaha. The 26-year-old lefty from the Colorado School of Mines has a 2.35 ERA and 76 strikeouts to just 19 walks in 53 and 2/3 innings. It certainly makes the Royals bullpen more lefty heavy, but Trenton, as you were saying, he's earned the opportunity. He's done everything he can do down at AAA to get a chance like this.
Yeah. And the only question is, well, will it translate? Because he's obviously earned a shot. You know who else earned a shot? Not Nick Lofton, Drew Waters, who was 1 for 8. C.J. Alexander, who was 1 for 8. So does Walter Pennington actually benefit the team in a positive way? You know, is he a guy that can actually translate what he's done dominating the AAA level? Or is he another quad A guy like you saw with Waters and C.J. Alexander in their short stint up here?
Speaking of C.J. Alexander, it was a short stint. He is headed back. He's headed back up, I guess that would be I-29 to Omaha.
I believe so.
So C.J. Alexander optioned down to Omaha, replacing him on the 26-man roster. Adam Frazier, 1-game rehab assignment for the infielder. Frazier returned from his rehab assignment, reinstated from the injured list, so he is back with the club.
Not to mention
today.
He was something like 0 for 4 last night, I think.
It's not about the production. It's about hey, you're playing baseball for the first time in a couple weeks. Does your body hold up? Good.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Can't be worse, honestly, than C.J. Alexander. So those are the Royals roster moves today. Frazier off the injured list. Walter Pennington purchased and recalled from AAA Omaha. C.J. Alexander, Carlos Hernandez optioned down to AAA, and Dan Altavilla transferred. I got to say his name right. Dan Altavilla. It is not. Is it not Altavilla?
It's Altavilla.
Is it Altavilla?
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a whole thing about this a couple weeks ago.
Dan Altavilla. By any other name, he's on the 60-day injured list. So the Royals kind of kicked the can down the road regarding needing to open up a 40-man roster spot for Chris Bubich, which, again, they need to do by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
unless they are going to option him and continue, which I don't think that's insane to think that could happen. I think they could option him. If they want to continue to develop him as a reliever, they might just option him tomorrow.
I don't know. They've already pushed him back 30 days, and he's looked good. I saw some today that he.
But if they do that, if they option him, they still have to reinstate him from the 60-day. So
You're right, and that would use up his last option, though.
Mm-hmm. But they still need to clear up the 40-man roster spot.
Yeah, I
think is what I mean.
Yeah, someone's getting DFA tomorrow. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. So those are the roster moves for the Royals. This is particularly grim. Nick Lofton batted leadoff last night. Maikel Garcia has been a fixture in the leadoff spot for most of this season for the Royals, but he's been in a funk.
Is back in the leadoff tonight.
Yes, I was just getting there, Spencer.
Sorry.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, Maikel Garcia is back in the leadoff spot for the Royals tonight. Maikel Garcia, since the beginning of June, is hitting 139. 16 hits in 115 plate appearances. That includes 5 for his last 63 at the plate. And if you think that's bad, and make no mistake about it, it's really bad. It's still better than what Nick Lofton has managed. Nick Lofton is in a 3 for 40, including his double last night. That is a crisp 0.75 batting average. And again, these are the two players that the Royals have been using to lead off games. So I went and dug up the numbers. This season, players batting first in the Royals order are batting .229 with a .279 on-base percentage and a .336 slugging percentage. That's good for a .615 OPS if you don't want to do the addition in your head. On-base plus slugging of .615. Only 3 places in the Royals batting order have a lower batting average, the 6, 7, and 8 slots. The 6th slot has an identical on-base percentage of .279. No one is worse. No other spot in the lineup has been worse. And no other spot in the lineup is slugging less than .336, which is what the Royals are getting out of the leadoff spot. So, put another way, if you take away the name of the player or the position of the player, and just at the beginning of every game, you assigned a player leadoff batter, number 2 batter, number 3 batter. Those are your 9 players for the Royals. If you think of the lineup spot as a singular player of his own, the leadoff batter for the Kansas City Royals is by far the worst hitter on the team. I guess I shouldn't quite say by far. They're not getting much production out of the 6 hole either. OPS of just 621. OPS of 630 from the 7 hole. It's not a deep lineup for the Royals. We know this. We've discussed this throughout the season, that it is not a particularly deep lineup, and the Royals need to figure ways out to deepen up the lineup, whether that's more production for Michael Massey, whether that's more production from Hunter Renfroe, which they've started to get, whether that's adding a piece via trade. But a 279 on base percentage and a 615 OPS from the leadoff spot, which bats more than any other player on your team. You are giving the most at bats right now to your worst hitter if you are Matt Quatraro. And I don't know that there's a good answer for this in-house, because it's been suggested that maybe you just move Bobby Witt Jr. to lead off. He's the best hitter on the team, right? I mean, that's not debatable. Bobby Witt Jr. is the best hitter on the Kansas City Royals. Well, why not just give him the most at-bats? Why not just slide him to the leadoff role? He would be able to use his speed, getting on base. He is not drawing a ton of walks. He's not Ricky Henderson drawing walks, but he's better at that than he was early in his career. Just slide Bobby Witt up to the top of the lineup. I don't love that idea. Trent, how do you feel about that?
Do you remember when they tried that last year, the year before, and he was bad at it?
Yeah.
He's a very comfortable 2-0 hitter because he's hitting like 320. I wouldn't mess with him. And
Bobby Witt Jr. is a leadoff hitter in his career, a 204 batting average, a 242 on base in 47 games. As a 2-hole hitter, a 292 batting average, a 335 on base, and a 500 slug in 263 games. It's a bigger sample, certainly, in the 2-hole, but yeah, that 47 games is not nothing as a leadoff man. And yeah, he wasn't really up to it.
Yeah, and batted balls in play for the number 1 hole. That means it's a little bit of unluckiness for the number 1 hole in the Royals line, because it is 261 on batted balls in play. So a little bit unlucky.
A little bit. And Garcia in particular has been really unlucky. But also, if you've watched Garcia's at bats, like, batting average on balls in play doesn't tell the whole story. Yeah. Because if you hit weak ground balls or lame fly balls every time you're up, those aren't going to be hits. They're just not. And that's Maikel Garcia right now. He is, when he is dialed in, and we've seen it look good in stretches for Garcia, week here, like start of the season. A couple weeks back, he had a really good stretch where he's hitting line drives back up the middle and to the opposite field, like solid line drives, pulling the ball, going corner, foul line to foul line, using his speed for some extra bases. He does have good stolen base ability. He's 21 for 22 stealing bases. It would be nice if you could just get the best version of Maikel Garcia all the time. He would be a good leadoff hitter.
Right. And some that also saw on base percentage by your leadoff hitter in the first at bat of the game. So, like, when Maikel Garcia starts the game tonight or last night when Nick Lofton batted in the first inning, the 30th place team, the Kansas City Royals, 178, which is 21 points lower than the 29th ranked Oakland A's. So that means just the Royals' first at bat of the game, they're getting on base 18% of the time.
That's not going to cut it.
That's brutal.
That's really tough, because you want to throw an early punch, you want to take an early lead, and the 2, 3, and 4 batters for the Royals, of course, Witt and Pasquantino and Perez, all of those guys have 50-plus runs batted in. Pasquantino and Witt are at 58. Perez is at 54. And they've been one of the most productive lineup trios for the Royals in franchise history to this point in the season. But it's amazing they have that many RBI when the leadoff guy's not getting on base. Like, you've got to put a little pressure on teams earlier in games, and the Royals leave themselves unable to do that when they're getting that level of production from the leadoff spot. Now, it's fair to point out that it only matters but so much who your leadoff hitter is, because typically they only lead off that one time.
Right.
It's just one time in a game that guy typically is going to be your first batter of an inning. But still, It's the most at bats that you give a player. The guy who bats leadoff bats the most. And right now, Michael Garcia should not be getting more at bats than anyone. And Nick Lofton certainly hasn't earned the at bats. Adam Frazier's off the injured list tonight. He's a guy that, in theory, he'll draw a walk, he'll make contact. He's not going to strike out a bunch. He's a veteran. He's been an all-star. He's hitting .211 this year. I don't think he's the answer either. And I think that what this does is it really narrows the focus on what the Royals should be trying to get on the trade market. If they're going to acquire a position player, they got to get somebody who can lead off a game, who can draw a walk, or who can slap a base hit, who can have a good at bat and get a base hit, because I just don't think there's an answer on the roster. Bobby Witt Jr., I think, is more comfortable as a two-hole hitter. Vinny Pasquantino has the approach of a leadoff hitter. He also runs like me. And I don't mean that in a complimentary fashion. And if you've ever seen me run, you would know that. He's not a guy, like, I think the idea of clogging the base paths is a little bit overrated, especially when you have a guy like Bobby Witt Jr. who can drive the ball out of the park, hitting behind the leadoff spot. But I understand why you like Pasquantino in a run-producing spot, especially because he's been really good at driving in runs. He's up to 58 RBI again. There's not a good answer. Like, if you could go back in time and get rookie MJ Melendez, he kind of felt like a leadoff hitter, but now he doesn't walk as much and he's striking out too much. That's not an answer. Garrett Hampson, that's not an answer. 7 walks and 124 plate appearances. Like, you're not going to play him more for the sake of doing this. Christopher, in the YouTube comments earlier today, mentioned Kyle Isbell. His OPS the last 30 days, 842. Would he do that in the one hole? Probably not, but could he be worse? No. I like Kyle Isbell. I feel like he's kind of your prototypical 9-hole hitter. Like, again, he's not a guy who's going to draw a lot of walks, and he's going to strike out a little too much.
And he's done a good job getting on base for Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino in that part of the order. But you don't want him to. You have to have a good 9-hole hitter to get you have to have someone on base for the top of your order. But looking at Adam Frazier, he has 7 at bats and plate appearances. He hasn't walked at batting leadoff this year, so that's 2 games. He's 3 for 7. I mean, he had 4.
It's a very small sample size.
571 slug.
I don't hate it. This is what I do hate, though. We mentioned Michael Garcia is hitting leadoff again tonight. He's also playing second base again. Is he just a second baseman now? Like, have we decided that Michael Garcia, who came up as a shortstop, who adapted to third base and played it really well, like Gold Glove caliber well, is just he's a second baseman now, and we're going to play Nick Lofton out of position?
Well, I think it might also have to. I keep seeing it all over social media from various outlets that write about the Royals. Are they looking for a third baseman in the trade market?
I mean, they must
Taylor
be.
Ward.
Taylor Ward could play third. Luis Rengifo is another name we've brought up, but he just went on the injured list for the Angels today. I don't know if he's the option.
I've seen people say that maybe they're showing off Garcia, maybe because they can involve him in a trade package. I don't know if I said this on the show Wednesday. I don't think they move on from Garcia. I think they're trying to see if he can play second base because they don't like Michael Massey's chances of playing a whole lot of defense, and they just need someone that Taylor Ward, Luis Rengifo, that are third basemen that can produce, are going to play the hot corner if they go for a trade.
I don't love the idea of trading Garcia. He's only 24, unless you get a guy with some team control. Like, for me, Garcia is not the guy you include in a trade for a rental. Unless it's like a superstar rental. Unless you're going out and getting, and the Royals don't need this player, but like you're going to get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like,
this isn't a Johnny Cueto for Brandon Finnegan and all those guys trade like you had in 2015, or Ben Zobrist for Sean Manaea. Like, this is, you're not there where you're like on the cusp. You got to make a distinction with the Royals. They are a playoff contending team, but they are in no way a World Series contending team this year.
Right. And I don't know that there's a move that gets them there. Although, like, I should
get in and find out.
Yeah. Like
84 win Diamondbacks, third wild card last year.
Buy a ticket to the dance, and then you never know.
Yeah.
Get hot for a month and see what happens. But yeah, they wouldn't. There's not a scenario where the Royals, I think, could get to a point where they would be anybody's idea of a favorite. I don't like. Could they catch Cleveland and get a first round series at home? Maybe, but I don't think they'd play like a division series at home. I think it'd be a wild card series, and it's a best of 3. And like, if there were a move I thought that could get the Royals to a top 2 record in the American League, I'd say so, but I don't think there is.
And I think that's why they need to go 5-3 on this road trip. Solidify your spot in the standings going into the break here. And you're still an outside chance to catch Minnesota and Cleveland, because Cleveland has one of the toughest schedules the rest of the way. And Minnesota's had they've had the highest of highs followed by the lowest of lows. They have a losing streak coming up soon. So you just got to stay in it. Stay close, keep the pace with everyone else, and then jump it when everyone else starts to struggle. That's when you get hot. I think they still have an outside shot at the division if they just play good on these last 8 games before the break.
I think, too, they have that big, critical, now 4-game series at the end of this month up in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you can take 3 out of 4 there, and you can you just got to win on days they lose. Right. That's essentially what, and it's hard because this Cleveland team is so good. You just got to try and just win as many games and stack them as possible. And then take at least, try to sweep that series if you can, but at least take 3 to get yourself down to, hopefully by that point, it's like 1 or 2 games.
We'll talk more Royals in the 5 o'clock hour, previewing tonight's opener in Denver and the weekend series against the lowly Rockies, who no longer have the worst record in the National League all by themselves. They're tied with the Marlins. Thank you, Red Sox, for allowing the Rockies to momentarily catch the Marlins. We're going to take a break here, though. When we come back, we're going to crown a What Is Wrong With You champion for this first week of July here on 580 Sports Talk. It's time for What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to crown a July first week champion to advance to the end of the month and compete against the rest of the weekly winners, try and become the July champion. Our active weekly winner, I shot a drone from Walmart just to watch it die. 72-year-old Dennis Wynn of Lake County, Florida, who shot a drone out of a sky while it was making a mock delivery for Walmart, a test delivery. Mr. Wynn believed he was being surveilled by other drones and was fed up. And so he shot one out of the air with a 9mm handgun. That is our current weekly winner. I am going to go first today. So I went and played golf today. This morning. Village Greens in Ozaki. Wonderful course. The greens absolutely destroy me. I cannot get a handle on my putting. You're a Jefferson County kid. Trent, you play Village Greens?
I think that's the only place I've gone golfing in the 2 whole times I've golfed in my life. Pretty nice course, though.
Obviously, you're not a golfer. It is a nice course, though. It's in really good shape. And had fun up there in Ozaki this morning. Shot an 88. Nobody cares. But that's about what I usually do. I'm about a 15, 16 handicap.
Better than me.
Well, we'll have to find out sometime. You got your clubs in town. We'll go out. I'll take you up to Ozaki. We'll go play Village Green.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did not get in a fight with another foursome on the course today. That was not the case for numerous golfers at a course in British Columbia's lower mainland last weekend, where authorities, including the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, had to break up an altercation that was apparently prompted by serious breaches in golf etiquette. The incident unfolded at the Riverway Golf Course in Burnaby. You know, it was born in Burnaby, British Columbia. Avalanche great Joe Sakic. Anyway, where RCMP officers responded to a report of an assault in progress on Saturday morning. Social media video shows multiple golfers punching and kicking one another on the course. Authorities confirmed a woman was also pushed to the ground during the confrontation, suffering minor injuries. In a statement, Corporal Laura Hurst of the Burnaby RCMP detachment said that before the fracas began, one group of golfers allegedly almost hit another group with their golf balls on several occasions. This began the dispute that quickly turned physical. Now that's like a number one thing you can't do. Hit into the group in front of you. You got to wait for them to clear. If you think you might reach them, just wait. Just hold your water. Wait for them, even if they're playing slow. And you know what? If you're the group and you're playing slow and people are hitting into you, tell them they can play through. Like, this is something you should be able to handle in a gentlemanly fashion. It's the gentleman's game, right? These gentlemen, and apparently at least one woman, did not handle it in such a way. Sports commentator Matthew Sakaris of the Sakaris and Price show, that must be a big deal up north, said if the allegations are true, the group playing behind should have known better than to keep teeing up early. If you hit into a group once is enough. He described the violence recorded on the video as, quote, quite alarming. Paramedics had to be called to the scene, but the RCMP said no one had to be transported to the hospital. Hurst said officers separated all parties and escorted them off the golf course. So now you've ruined your golf outing because you can't wait 2 extra minutes for the group in front of you, or the group in front of you get in a fight instead of just saying, hey, obviously we're a pain in your backside. You guys want to just play through? We keep it moving. So yeah, a brawl on a golf course. Talk about a good walk spoiled. Anyway, Spencer, your turn.
Yes, we're going to go back to the old state of Florida. Is it Brevard? Brevard County man has been arrested after an alleged ploy to steal thousands from a local laundromat's coin machines, according to the sheriff's department. In an arrest affidavit, deputies said they received a call about a burglary at the laundromat of Port St. John alongside West Avenue on June 17th, just after 5 a.m. The caller reportedly told deputies that a man, later identified as Jeffrey Duffy, 39, had broken into the coin machines located in the employee-only offices, but by the time deputies arrived, Duffy was no longer at the business. However, deputies said they did find evidence of Duffy entering the laundromat and prying open the locked employees-only door with a crowbar. The door led to a restricted crawl space, which was typically used for repairs of the laundromat's appliances. The affidavit shows, quote, one once inside the restricted area, Duffy was able to gain access to the ceiling traverse across the building's rafters and climb down into the locked employee-only offices, which concealed the rear doors of the coin machines. The affidavit.
So he MacGyvered it.
Yeah. According to investigators, 2 of the coin machines had been pried open and all of the money inside was taken. In addition, deputies said Duffy was suspected of burglarizing the same laundromat at least 3 times prior, once on May 31st and again on June 9th in a June 17th burglary. Deputies found Duffy near the Space Coast flea market and brought him in for questioning. Investigators said Duffy initially claimed he had been at home with his girlfriend at the time the burglary happened and was already on probation for burglarizing a Chevron gas station down the road. She claims he did not commit the burglary at the Chevron for the money, as he had a personal vendetta against the owners of the business because he hates those people, the affidavit said. At some point, he worked for the business. They screwed him out of money, so he turned to burglarize them. When pressed on similarity and proximity of the Chevron burglary and the laundromat burglaries, Duffy allegedly told police that the modus operandi was not uncommon, deputies said.
So let's slow things down a little bit here. So he was on probation for a different burglary.
On the same road, basically.
And so they were asking him about these laundromat burglaries. And he says, well, yeah, I have anything to do about I have anything to do with that. And then later on, and I'm jumping ahead in the story here, Spencer, I hope you'll forgive me for doing so, because later on, he explains to the deputies that, yeah, I don't know who burglarized those laundromats, but it couldn't have been me. I wouldn't have been caught. And then he went on to explain how he knows how to disable surveillance systems and how he would have tampered with the business's camera and turned off the Wi-Fi. At which point the deputies noticed, well, the Wi-Fi actually did get turned off on this one. And then he invited the deputies to search his home, and they found a large quantity of $20 bills. So he OJ'd it. He said, if I did it, and they led the deputies to believe that he did it.
Not only that, he talked about a casino that was robbed with the same methods.
Yeah.
Back in January.
That's the thing. And he said, well, I didn't do that one because if I had, you never would have caught me. And then they caught him.
Yeah.
What? In total, Duffy stole around $5,000 from the laundromat's coins machines, severely damaging the equipment as he did so.
Also, surveillance footage showed him at the laundromat.
Oh, yeah, that too. They go back and he's on the game film. I'm sure in striking 4K.
He now faces charges of grand theft, 3 counts of burglary, 2 counts of possessing burglary tools with the intent to use. He's being held on $77,500 bond.
All right, this guy wins today. Not even close. But does he beat the guy who shot the drone out of the sky?
I don't know.
Trenton, what do you think? We go the drone guy or we go with burglary guy here? Arrogant burglary guy.
I'm going arrogant burglary guy. That's too good.
I think so, because he's being so like, well, I couldn't have done that because I would have got away with it. Like at least the guy, the drone guy is saying I shot it because somebody was going to spy on me.
Like O.J. Simpson. If I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I did it, you never would have caught me because I'm too good at this. They run up on him. They find the money and they find him on camera. He probably wasn't even a real suspect. All he would have to do is keep his head down and keep him moving. And instead, he got himself in trouble. All right, that's gonna be the weekly champion. If I did it, our weekly champion for the first week of July on What Is Wrong with You, coming in on Friday to steal the weekly crown. When we come back, we'll talk a little Big 12 football on 580 Sports Talk. 4:48 on 580 Sports Talk. One more hour to go after this. We'll have headlines, talk Royals, Rockies. Have a good time on a Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Hit us up on the Top City Mental Supply text line, 785-272-9429. You can also jump in on the YouTube live chat as well if you're watching on the YouTube stream at 580 Sports Talk. So last season in the Big 12, it was rough waters for the 4 new teams on the gridiron. They were all coming from the independent or group of 5 ranks, and the difference between athletes of that caliber and athletes of Big 12 caliber was pretty readily apparent. It was also a problem for Cincinnati that their coach is bad and kind of checked out. And it was also a problem for Houston that Dana Holgerson was extremely checked out. But none of those newcomers really covered themselves in glory in year 1 in the Big 12. Of that group, UCF, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati. 2 questions. Spencer, who do you think makes the biggest leap forward in that group in year 2 in the conference?
That's a good question.
I'll start. I am on record as being very pro UCF this year. I like Gus Malzahn. I really like KJ Jefferson in that backfield, RJ Harvey. I think that they went out and portaled effectively and went out, were able to get some guys who are a little bit more Big 12 caliber. I think UCF's an 8-win team. I think that's a top 5 team in the league and an 8-win team at the end of the day. I think they're going to be really explosive on offense, really tough to defend, and I think they will have better athletes this time around. I think they use the portal really, really well. So I think UCF of that group is most likely to take a big step forward.
Yeah, and, I really don't think who else would take a big step forward, right? Like,
it might be them by default, right? Because
yeah,
BYU's quarterback room is a mess. Like they I don't like to be so reductive to say that just something stinks. I try to avoid doing that, even though I probably do it more than I should. But BYU's quarterback room stinks. Like they're not going to find a solution there. And I wonder if it's getting a little stale with Kalani Sitake there in Provo. Houston, first-year new head coach, and I like Willie Fritz, but first-year new head coach, kind of a year 0 there. And
same thing in Houston.
Cincinnati, you mean?
Or Cincinnati, yes.
Yeah, Scott Satterfield is just not a good coach.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to work out for Cincinnati at any point, as long as Scott Satterfield is their coach. Yeah. So that's the short term.
There's like one team that would take the step up, and you already talked about UCF.
So that's the short term. Over the long haul, which, if any of those teams, do you expect to get to perennial Big 12 contention the fastest? Which of those schools do you think has the infrastructure in place, the commitment in place, if any of them, to be able to be in the mix on a year in, year out basis? Because right now we don't really know who's going to be the perennial teams at the top of the league like Oklahoma was in the old Big 12. Like this new Big 12, they're not going to have it Oklahoma. But Oklahoma's always in the mix, and Texas tended to be in the mix, even if they only won 3 conference titles their last 20 years in the league. Those are your blue blood programs. Oklahoma State got to that level where they were always in the mix. Who's it going to be in the new Big 12? I think Kansas State stands to be one of those programs. I think Utah does. But any of these newcomers inspire that level of confidence for you?
I mean, I think over time, BYU.
Okay. Why them?
I just think they have prominence, I guess, when they were independent, right?
Yeah.
When they were independent,
there's some really good teams in the 2000s and 2010s. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, I think if you can get back to that, you can be a top echelon Big 12 team. And they obviously moved to the Big 12 for a reason, right? Not just because you need a conference, but because they thought they fit in there and they thought they can compete at that level. And the Big 12 accepted them because of that too. Because you can't, as a school, just say, "Oh, I was independent. I want to join this conference." It has to be mutual, right? So the Big 12 thinks their sports, their athletics, specifically football, the biggest moneymaker, basketball, the second biggest moneymaker, are on the rise. And I think that they're a team that in a few years could be a contending team at the top of the Big 12.
BYU football has an identity. They have a history.
Yes.
And they will always have older players because they are affiliated with the Latter-day Saints. They're going to have kids that come back from missions, and they're still playing college football in their mid-20s with a wife and 2 kids. Like that's going to be something that is always a part of that program. They've got some routes to year in, year out contention. I think Houston has the most want to of those 4 schools, and the most like financial power behind them that they could really go out and dominate the NIL space if they wanted to and get there. But we'll see what it looks like under Willie Fritz. I'm a little more hesitant about Houston.
Yes.
Like if we'd had this conversation the same time last year, I would have said absolutely Houston. But now with a new head coach, we'll see where it goes. I like Willie Fritz. I'm still optimistic, but I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on Houston after the disappointing first year. It will not be as difficult to transition for the Pac-12 teams moving in this year. One of them's favored to win the league. Utah's going to jump right into contention, and I expect them to stay there. I expect them to be one of the elites in the Big 12 moving forward. Arizona's in the mix this year, and we have a texter from the Top Email Supply text line 785 who says they can make a case for Arizona being a long-term contender. I like their head coach, Brent Brennan. I think he's a good coach. My concern is I think this is just a high watermark for Arizona. Like historically, that has not been a team that has been real good. Like you have to go back to the mid-90s, the last time they were like a conference contender. They've had some decent teams in the interim, but I don't think the talent pipeline is there for Arizona unless they're going to just really dominate the state of Arizona. And I think them and Arizona State are always going to split those players. I don't see a path to Arizona State ever being like really, really good. Like bowl team, sure, but that feels like their ceiling in this conference, Arizona State. And Arizona, I think this is a high watermark for them. I think this is I think they'll have some ebbs and flows. And then Colorado, I have no idea what to make of. Like ask me again once the circus leaves town with regard to Colorado.
I agree with you on Utah 100%. I think, or if I'm not mistaken, they're one of the toughest, like their stadium is one of the toughest places to play in all of college football.
It's loud and rowdy, and you've got the altitude.
Yeah, and I think that plays into it all as well. And Arizona, yes and no, but the biggest question is going to be Colorado. Like they showed a flash last year to begin the season, but now they didn't.
Yeah, we'll see what that looks like once the circus leaves town, because I don't think Dion's going to be there for very long. That's going to do it for this hour. 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio.
Bobby.
Let's get it. Final hour of the day, final hour of the week here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis in studio, Trenton Kraxner across the glass. The three-man power trio taking you into the weekend on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Whether you're tuned in on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or watching our video stream on Facebook, WIBW News on Facebook, Twitter, 580 Sports Talk on Twitter, or on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, where we have gained a subscriber today. Thank you to you, brave soul, who subscribed to the YouTube page today. Who else is out there? Where are other heroes who will subscribe to the YouTube page today? YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe today. Watch the show. Comment in the live chat. We love to hear from you. You can also hit us on the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is the number. 785-272-9429. Again, we are with you through this final hour, and we will have some overtime for you. We're going to hear from Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com in case you missed that interview earlier. Spencer Dupuis is going to cover overtime today, take you up to 6:30 when we'll hand things off to the Royals Baseball Network. The Royals in Denver to take on the Colorado Rockies, first of three in an interleague series tonight. Cole Reagan's on the bump for the Royals, and the Royals will send out a right-handed heavy lineup to face Colorado left-hander Kyle Freeland. First pitch at 7:10, pregame at 6:30 here on 580 WIBW, your home for the Royals since first pitch in 1969. We'll preview that series a little bit more. We'll have some fun with it, too, because it is, again, the Dan Lucero Bowl. It is the Dan Lucero series this weekend. The team that I cover, my adopted hometown team, I guess my son's hometown team by birth, and my hometown team by birth, and my favorite team, the Colorado Rockies. So we'll have a little fun with that, including a statistic about the Rockies is going to blow your mind. It blows mine, but not in a good way. We'll talk about that and why, no matter what happens this weekend, the one thing you're not going to want to do is give up on the Royals in any of these games. They could be down by 5 runs going into the 9th inning. Leave the TV on. Just trust your pal Dan on this. Leave the TV on. Leave the radio on if you're listening here on 580 WIBW. Don't touch that dial because no lead is safe with the Colorado Rocky bullpen. So this is a big opportunity for the Royals to get back on the winning track after losing 2 out of 3 to the Tampa Bay Rays. But first, we start the 5 o'clock hour as we do every day with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. And I'm not going to hold you, folks. It's another slow news day. It's like the sports news industrial complex also took an extra day off after the 4th of July. So we'll start with a story that we didn't get to when it broke after Wednesday's show. So this news is a couple days old, but in case you missed it, this is not a this just in. This has been in for a couple of days. Your starters for the 2024 Major League Baseball All-Star Game have been announced. The American League will start. Adley Rutschman from Baltimore at catcher. He beat out Salvador Perez for the fan vote and will be making his first All-Star start. Blue Jays first baseman Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a 4-time All-Star and a 3rd-time starter. Jose Altuve, Houston Astros great, future Hall of Famer. He'll start at second base, 9th All-Star appearance, 6th starter election. At shortstop, it'll be Gunnar Henderson for the Orioles. He beat out Bobby Witt Jr. in the Phase 2 fan vote, and Henderson will make his first All-Star appearance, his first All-Star start. Jose Ramirez will make his 3rd All-Star start and his 6th All-Star appearance. He won the fan vote at 3rd base. Designated hitter, Houston's Yordan Alvarez, his 3rd straight All-Star game, first as a starter. In the outfield, Aaron Judge will start for a 6th time in his career. He was the leading vote getter in the American League. Juan Soto, his Yankee teammate, will start with him. It's his first time as a starter, 4th year in a row that the former National and Padre has been an All-Star. And Stephen Kwan of the Cleveland Guardians will start his first All-Star game as well. That is your starting outfield for the American League. Over in the National League, the Brewers' William Contreras will start at catcher. It's his 2nd All-Star game and his first as a starter. At first base, Phillies' Bryce Harper will make his 7th start, his 8th overall appearance in an All-Star game. He was the leading National League vote getter. At second base, Arizona's Ketel Marte will start his second All-Star game, his first since 2019. The shortstop will be Philadelphia's Trey Turner. It's his second election as a starter, but he may not. Well, no, he'll make it to the game. This is worded poorly. He has returned from the injured list after he missed 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. He's been red hot since coming off the injured list. Alec Boehm, former Wichita State Shocker and first-round pick out of WSU, will make his first All-Star game appearance as the starter at third base. He's also going to appear in the Home Run Derby. He and Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles are two of the confirmed participants. There are rumors out there that a certain Kansas City Royals shortstop may be in the Home Run Derby this year as well, but those rumors are as yet unconfirmed. Shohei Ohtani will be the National League's DH. The Dodgers star has been voted an all-star starter for a 4th consecutive year. The National League outfield, Milwaukee's Christian Yelich, who will be starting for a second time. San Diego's Jurickson Profar. I'm bitter about this one. He was a Rocky last year, and he sucked. He was so bad. This year, he's an all-star starter, and he deserves to be. He's hitting .311. First all-star appearance for Profar, and he's going to start alongside his Padres teammate Fernando Tatis Jr., second all-star appearance, second all-star start. Those are your all-star starters for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. That's coming up July 16th. Sunday evening is when the rest of the all-star rosters will be revealed. Quick. Well, you don't have to go quick. We got time. Spencer, how many Royals? 3 or 4?
I'm gonna go 4.
You can go 4? So what I'm assuming is you mean both Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans.
Yeah, both of them might not pitch. I don't know how. I haven't looked to project how it it projects out.
So if Reagans is going tonight,
but this next week where they don't play a 3-game set might actually help them to be able to do so. But I don't know.
Yeah, they might be able to if they wanted. They could move Reagans to Wednesday. They could skip Marsh, which the way Marsh threw yesterday.
Why not?
Yeah, go ahead. They could skip Marsh and have Reagans throw Wednesday, and then Lugo would have another extra day's rest. He could throw Friday and then come back and pitch in the All-Star game Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, he's only going to pitch an inning, right?
Lugo is definitely making the team.
Yes. He's back to top? Or was he like top 2?
I think in what?
He has the most wins for sure.
Yes, he leads the American League in wins. He does now lead the American League in ERA. I think Corbin Burns was the leader for a second, but he gave up some runs against Seattle yesterday. I was watching that game actually. So yeah, Lugo's now back in the ERA lead in the American League. He's definitely making the game. By the advanced metrics, Reagans has been a better pitcher this year.
Yes,
I would like to see Reagans make it because he's got the gaudy strikeout numbers. I think he's worthy, even if the win-loss record is not as impressive as Lugo's. But we'll see. There are a lot of teams that need an all-star, and their most deserving guy happens to be a starter, like Tyler Anderson for the Angels and Garrett Crochet for the White Sox. So we'll see. I'm not optimistic that Reagans is going to make it, but he would be on my team. And then certainly Salvi and Bobby Witt Jr. Are going to the All-Star game.
I've got a
as well
topic we can circle back to Monday after a Sunday start. But who's sneaky been good his last few weeks when it comes to ERA?
Who's that?
Your third starter, Brady Singer.
He has been.
He is 9th in the American League in ERA at 3.05.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Because all we ever talk about with Brady Singer is, God, that was a frustrating outing for Brady Singer. But in terms of run prevention, he's been close to as good as it gets in the American League. It's wild that both he and Reagans have losing records. In fact, Lugo is the only Royals starting pitcher with a record over 500.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
It's crazy, but
that's why win-loss record is meaningless when it comes to starting pitchers.
I was just trying to find where Reagans was. Because maybe I was thinking about going back on one. He's at 333, but
right.
Likely will change tonight.
We talk about fielding independent pitching, which is basically another way to look at ERA, and you're taking all the stuff that the defense has nothing to do with out of you're taking all the stuff that the defense does impact out of the equation, fielding independent. You're looking at strikeouts and walks and home runs. Reagans' fielding independent is almost a run lower than his actual ERA, and it's the best by some distance. The ERA rankings for the Royal starters: Lugo, Singer, Reagans, Waka, Marsh. In terms of fielding independent pitching, it's Reagans, Lugo, Waka, Singer, Marsh. Just a interesting footnote there. But anyway, that is your first headline. The All-Star starters, couple of confirmed home run derby participants, and we'll know all the rest on Sunday night. Spencer, first headline.
Yes, we're going to stay in baseball, but move down to the collegiate ranks and go to Lawrence, Kansas. For the first time in program history, D1 baseball has named a KU player a freshman first-team All-American. Kansas pitcher Dom Vogel got the nod today from the collegiate media outlet D1Baseball.com. He was named Big 12 Freshman of the Year in May. The second straight season, a Jayhawk had received that title after last year Cody Shojanaga. Did I get that
Shojanaga, I believe.
Shojanaga's co-honor in 2023. In 15 starts this year, Vogel finished with a 7-2 record, 3.89 ERA, 80 strikeouts, allowing a 235 batting average. So congrats to him. And that's a big honor for KU freshmen as baseball is trending upward these days, it appears.
It is. Definitely some momentum, some positive momentum for Jayhawk baseball. Obviously, K-State making a super regional this year. They've got some positive momentum, too. They're going to have another first-round pick come out of their program, and Kalen Culpepper in all likelihood. But, yeah, the Jayhawks under Dan Fitzgerald have definitely moved in the right direction over the last 2 seasons.
Also, side note, on the KU Athletics website, love the baseball logo.
Yeah, that's crisp, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's, how would I describe that? It's
like a seal.
Yeah, it's very
with a baseball in it.
Yeah, Jayhawks in cursive, Kansas baseball. And yeah, it looks like a Major League Baseball team's like seal type logo. Yeah, it's slick. It's very nicely done. All right, next headline for me. Look, folks, I told you it was a slow news day. Let's talk about the beautiful game. We got some soccer notes to get to. France and Spain are moving on in the European Championships. Spain, an extra time winner over host Germany earlier this afternoon. So the hosts are out of Euro 2024. And then France with a win in penalties over Portugal. So Cristiano Ronaldo is eliminated from what is probably his last European Championship. France and Spain are your survivors from today's action. The quarterfinals continue tomorrow. England takes on Switzerland. It's coming home, isn't it? It's coming home. Football is coming home. That's terrible. That's really bad. I apologize for the British accent I tried to affect there. Deeply, deeply sorry if I offended anyone. England and Switzerland. I'm not even going to try a Swiss accent. I don't even know what that would sound like. That is your first quarterfinal tomorrow. The Netherlands and Turkey. I believe is how you have to say that now. They've changed the name of the country.
Wait, Turkey has changed.
Turkey. It's Turkiye. I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, they. It's the native, I believe, pronunciation and spelling of the country.
Turkey. Yeah, is what I found when I looked it up.
Turkey. Yeah.
Turkey. Yeah. Turkey, yeah, is what when I looked it up.
That's what I say every Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's turkey. Yeah, that's
when the main course hits. I thought I had heard it pronounced Turkey, but that might be wrong because Fox has done a really bad job covering this tournament, so they might have just mispronounced it. Anyway, the nation formerly known as Turkey. We can hit it with the artist formerly known as Prince treatment around these parts. Hopefully Erdogan doesn't hear about that and like drone strike our studio or anything like that. But the Netherlands and the nation formerly known as Turkey is the other quarterfinal. Also, Copa America going on, and I believe that they are on to the knockout rounds as well after pool play has concluded. The quarterfinals are underway. In fact, there was a quarterfinal last night. Argentina a winner on penalties over Ecuador, even though Lionel Messi missed his penalty, doinked it off the crossbar. He tried to get cute and just kind of dink it in down the middle, and he hit the crossbar. It was wild. But his goaltender bailed him out. Goalie bailed him out. So Argentina's on to the quarterfinals. Tonight, Venezuela and Canada in another quarterfinal at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Then on Saturday, Colombia takes on Panama in Glendale, Arizona at State Farm Stadium. And Uruguay faces Brazil. That is a tasty matchup if you like international soccer. That's probably the one to watch of the Copa America quarters. That game will be at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Sorry, guys. Slow news day. What else you got, Spencer?
What do I got for you here? The NBA draft. Rumors are swirling according to let me see before I mess this up. Mark Stein, is that who it is? Yeah, Mark Stein of the Stein line, Substack about media and
basketball.
And basketball,
big basketball guy. Yeah.
Specifically.
Mark Stein, very tight end.
We had gripes about this on the show, right? Right? Were you back? Yeah, you were back.
Yeah.
About the NBA said they were going to move the draft, the first round to make it 1 and 2 different days.
Yes.
But everybody thought the second round was at night, like all of us did at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it couldn't be at night because the debate was on.
That's right. They did. They had the presidential debate that night, and so they did the draft earlier.
So they did a mid-afternoon draft. That is going away. No final decision has been made effectively yet. But essentially the odds are that it's going to go away and go to nighttime or an evening time, as they're going to stick with the 2-day format. So
I think the 2-day format is very dumb.
It's dumb, but if you're going to do it, make sure it's not midday. I see why they had to do it this year. But maybe you should have pushed it back one day if you were going to do that. Knowing one thing that comes around every 4 years was going to be on.
Yeah,
why don't you start it the day before?
I don't know what came
Tuesday,
first.
Wednesday?
I don't know what came first, what got scheduled first.
Yeah.
Like I understand wanting to, I guess, avoid that conflict, but yeah, the midday day 2 of the draft was really, really poorly executed, and we'll see how that goes from there. Moving it to the evening is the only way. Like they have to do that, but I still just think it should all be one night.
Oh, I agree.
Next headline for me. How about some golf? How about yesterday at the John Deere Classic in Silvis, Illinois, the Quad Cities, the 14th sub 60 round in PGA Tour history. I shot an 88 today, and I'm generally happy with it. I could have putted better. Village greens, as a texter pointed out in the 785 when I was talking about this earlier, Village greens can be interesting. Sometimes those greens are fast. Sometimes they're slow. It's hard to dial it in. Who you telling? I did not dial it in today. I shot an 88. That is, let me do a little back of the napkin math here. That is 29 strokes worse than PGA Tour rookie Hayden Springer shot in round 1 at the John Deere Classic yesterday at 12 under 59 at TPC Deere Run. It was a very easy scoring day at rain softened course. There were only 13 players that were over par in a 156-man field. So these are like juiced ball golf numbers here. That, it's a 59. That used to be super rare and super impressive. But he's the second player in 3 weeks on the PGA Tour to break 60, and the 8th player to do it on golf tours worldwide, including Cristobal del Solar of Chile, who shot a 57 on a Corn Ferry Tour event in Colombia. Maybe golf is getting too easy. Maybe my 88 today would have been like a 97 in the non-juiced ball era of golf. I don't know. Are you impressed by a 59?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am too. Like, there are people that roll their eyes and say,
I would dream of even getting a 79, 75.
Yeah,
like, I dream to get there.
I'd love to break 80. Just one time in my life, I would love to break. I shot 81 once. I'd love to break 80. I would love it. These dudes break 60 on the PGA Tour now. Just a matter of course. These guys are out there breaking 60. It's unbelievable. Springer, you'll be stunned to note, still leads the tournament. Round 2 of the John Deere Classic in progress. Springer up a shot on CT Pan and old 2 gloves, Aaron Rye. I call him 2 gloves because he wears 2 golf gloves when he plays. 2 black golf gloves. Very rare to see a guy wear 2 gloves. So he's 2 gloves. Aaron Rye. I watched 2. This is how you know I've entered my dad era. There are many reasons that it's obvious that I've entered my dad era, but one of the reasons is, like, I will watch early round coverage of the non-major events, and I know these things about guys like Aaron Rye, that he wears 2 gloves. He's never won on the tour. That's not a name anybody knows. But now you know. Next time you hear his name come up in conversation, oh yeah, old 2 gloves. Anyway, Spencer, you got any more headlines?
I do not.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you'd have one more. I will do one more. How about that? I got
Oh,
one.
wait. Okay, I saw another one in there. My fault.
I got one more.
Apparently, our banner says no.
Yeah, our banner says it's 5:00 somewhere. He's ready. Our banner is ready to check out for the weekend here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Go to kansasdrivetozero.com. Be part of Fans with a Plan. This is a we're all terribly, terribly old headline here. You remember LeVar Arrington? He played for Washington when you remember the Washington football concern, right?
Yes. That was right when I was getting into it, 0405. I more know him though for him being a radio personality. He used to co-host a show in DC.
Is that right?
Yeah, LeVar and Dukes.
I remember him best as, yes, a player, but also maybe the least committed to the bit in the old Eastern Motors commercials.
Yes.
Your face just lit up. I'm so glad I was able to mention it. The Eastern, it's the very, why don't you explain the Eastern Motors commercials?
I don't even know how to explain them. You have to watch it to understand. Basically, it's
the jingle, right? There's the Eastern Motors jingle.
At Eastern Motors,
your job's your credit. Yes.
At Eastern Motors, and buy a car today.
Yeah, and there are famous DC area athletes who are in the commercials singing along, and like Clinton Portis, I remember, is having like the best time ever in these commercials.
They used to be the official dealership of the Washington team,
football teams. Yes. So this is like mid 2000s. This is like when I was in college. This is one of the first things I can remember going viral. Like this is one of like the OG Deadspin type stories that these videos went viral. This is like when YouTube was first in the streets, so that anybody out there could watch a car commercial from the Washington DC area.
It used to be the biggest thing. It was like days before training camp was the shoot. Every year, days before training camp, the media would go out there and cover it.
So, like, Clinton Portis was into it. I remember, like, Brendan Haywood, who was playing for the Zards, the Wizards at the time, being in these ads. And I just remember LeVar Arrington being very straight-faced in the driver's seat of his Eastern Motors supplied vehicle, like, not very committed to the bit. Anyway, I say all that to say, LeVar Arrington's son committed to Penn State yesterday. LeVar Arrington II. He had 65 tackles, 12 sacks during his junior season at Charter Oak High School in Covina, California. Had a lot of big offers from major programs, but decided to go where his father went, Penn State, where he was an All-American and authored the LeVar Leap. Did he ever pull that off in the NFL? I don't remember. He sure did in college. Man, he's an awesome college player. Pretty good NFL player. 3 Pro Bowls in 7 seasons. Dealt with some injuries.
Not longevity that you would have expected.
No, I think he had some injuries, but yeah, LeVar Arrington's son just announced his college commitment. So just so you know, y'all old. By y'all, I mean me. That's going to do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We're going to fix our banner on the video stream, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we are going to preview the Dan Lucero Bowl, the Royals and the Rockies, 3 games to decide the supremacy in my household, at the very least. We'll break it all down when we come back here on 580 WIBW. 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Spencer, Trenton, seeing you through the rest of your Friday into the weekend. We got overtime coming up. We'll take you to 6:30 and then hand things off to the Royals Baseball Network. The Royals in Denver for a 3-game set. That makes it really cool, by the way, for Walter Pennington, who the Royals purchased and activated to their 26-man roster earlier today. In case you missed that, the left-handed reliever who had been dominating down at AAA Omaha has been recalled to give a strained bullpen a little bit of, no pun intended, relief. Carlos Hernandez option down. Walter Pennington is from Broomfield, Colorado, which is just north of Denver, a little northeast, home of the Butterfly Pavilion. And he will have, according to Ann Rogers of MLB.com, who covers the Royals, over 50 people in the crowd tonight in Denver to cheer him on as he makes his big league debut.
I hope he's able to make it.
Yeah, I hope he gets to pitch this weekend. I do.
That's the thing about a reliever is you never know when it's actually going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
You show up to the games, but they're not like the scheduled pitcher.
Yeah, with how taxed the bullpen is, though, I could see him being the first guy out of the bullpen tonight, where the Royals are up 4-3, 3-3, whatever, losing, whatever the score is, just for how taxed the bullpen is. I could see him being the first guy out.
I think Quatrero will want to get an early look at him.
And you know what? He's wearing number 65. You know who else wore number 65 for the Royals this year?
Earlier.
I do not.
Matt Sauer.
Was that right?
Yeah, Matt. That was so.
They probably just had the jersey.
So the team store is probably ripping out the shreds of the Sauer and inserting Pennington.
Yeah, they gotta junk all the Sauer jerseys that were really fast movers at the Royals dugout.
You know what? You know Pennington is only the second MLB player out of the Colorado School of Mines to make to the MLB.
I did not know that.
Roy Hartzell, 1906.
Oh wow,
really good numbers if you check his baseball reference page as an infielder and outfielder. Is the only other guy. But Washburn's playing Colorado School of the Mines in football this year.
Yes, they are
in Topeka here at Yager Stadium.
That's right. I think they have a return game set up in that would be Golden, Colorado.
Yeah, that's where Scherg went.
Yes, Craig Scherg, Washburn head coach, is a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines. Great school. Obviously, national runners-up in football this past year. Lost the Division II championship game to Harding. But, yeah, that's really cool for Walter Pennington, not just being somebody who was educated there, but born there, grew up there, pitched in the Colorado Prospects game that is at Coors Field every year. Really cool for Walter Pennington. And all the best to him as he makes his debut for the Royals this week. The Royals take on the Colorado Rockies. Quick! The names I have in the rundown for the starting pitchers for this weekend, they don't count. Name a Colorado Rocky.
Ryan McMahon.
Ding. Spencer.
Brenton Doyle.
Ding.
I can't think of his first name, but Toglia. Michael
Toglia. Yes.
Okay.
Ding. We'll count it. Half credit. Spencer.
I got no other ones. I just know Brenton Doyle because he went to Shepherd, which is a school that I covered at my last job.
That's Gold Glove center fielder Brenton Doyle.
Yeah, it is.
Charlie Blackman's still kicking.
Charlie Blackman is still there.
I was going to say Trey Tulowitzki, but he's not on the team anymore. He hasn't been on the team for years.
He's been retired, man. He's coaching college baseball these days.
Is?
Oh, yeah. He was at Texas. He was an assistant at Texas. Yeah, that was a long time
I
ago.
could name you random ones, but I couldn't, like Todd Helton.
Yeah, I'm not looking for random.
You're looking for
I'm looking for active
players.
Rockies. So, quick side story here. When I was in college, this is 2004, 2005. You guys probably don't remember. There was a video game, MVP Baseball. It was the EA Sports baseball video game. And I remember my freshman year of college playing that game in my dorm room with some of my, floor mates and friends. And I would play as the Rockies, and my floor mates were from the Midwest, Cubs fans, White Sox fans, some Reds fans, Cardinals fans, you had a mix. And I remember playing against one of my floor mates who's a Cubs fan. I was playing as the Rockies, and he, about, a little bit through the game, he said, "Dano, I got to be honest with you. I don't know any of the players on your team right now. I don't know any of the guys you're using." And I said, "Well, you don't know them now, but these are all pretty good prospects, and they might be something someday." And I was right. Like the young guys on the Rockies in the mid 2000s grew up to be pennant winners. In 2007, the Rockies' lone National League championship. I would not make the same claim about the gentlemen who are currently running out there for the 2024 Colorado Rockies, who are 30-57, tied for the worst record in the National League with the Miami Marlins. Not a lot to be optimistic about with this group. And it's only going to get worse if they trade off some of their more usable parts like catcher Elias Diaz or starting pitcher Cal Quantrill, who the Royals won't see, but are familiar with, a former Cleveland Guardian. They might trade him. They might trade Austin Gomber, who will go Saturday in the series. They might not, too, because they're the most idiosyncratic franchise in baseball. But this is why the season has been so grim. Guys, what's a good ERA? What do you consider good earned run average?
4 or below.
Yeah.
4 or below? Okay.
Yeah.
So back in 2015, remember when the Royals had that kick-ass bullpen, 2015? And Greg Holland was hurt, but you still had Wade Davis, Kelvin Herrera. So even if it wasn't Holland in the 9th, it was somebody who was just as good, if not better. And Davis was better than Holland that year. The Royals in the 9th inning of games that year had an ERA of 2.73. You would say that's really good, right?
Yeah.
That's an awesome 9th inning. Like,
Great.
yes, elite
Yes.
9th inning ERA. Take a guess what the Colorado Rockies' 9th inning ERA is this year.
7.64.
That is too optimistic, Trenton.
8.9.
That is a little too pessimistic. The Rockies have an ERA in the 9th inning of games of 8.16.
Wow.
That is almost a run every 9th inning. So, if nothing else, folks, if you're watching Rockies Royals this weekend from Denver, not just because the games are taking place at altitude where the ball does carry, do not touch that dial going into the 9th inning, no matter what the score is, because there are still liable to be fireworks. There have been 7 times this season where the Rockies have entered the 9th inning or later with a lead and given up 5 or more runs and lost the game. That has happened 7 times. We're only halfway through the season. It hasn't happened a total of 7 times to the rest of the other 29 teams in baseball. It has happened 7 times to the Colorado Rockies. I say all that to say this is a series that the Royals probably ought to win and very well could sweep. A lot of teams who are serious have gone to Denver and swept. A lot of unserious teams have done it, like the Reds, for instance. They're not incredibly serious, but they took 3 out of 3 from the Rockies in Denver. Flip side, the Guardians lost a series in Denver. So, baseball, stuff happens.
I just looked at the 40-man roster, and I have heard of, that I can recall off the top of my head, 6 players.
That many, huh?
Yeah, heard of. Don't know a lot about them. I mean, obviously I know about Doyle. Jake Cave I've heard of.
That's man of the people, cult hero Jake Cave.
Charlie Blackmon.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you count this person because he's on the 10-day IL, Chris Bryant.
Yeah, people have heard of him. They ought to cut.
I forgot he was on the team.
I wish I could forget he was on the team. They need to write him a check and ask him, how much can we pay you to retire? They need to give him the Steven Strasburg treatment there in Washington. Like, Strasburg couldn't play anymore, like physically.
Yeah.
Chris Bryant isn't there yet, but actually he is.
Yeah.
And the Rockies need to write him as big a check as possible to just make him go away.
Yeah. I also know who Dakota Hudson is and who Kyle Freeland is.
Okay. Dakota Hudson, former Cardinal. He stinks. He won't pitch this weekend. That's
it. That's it, though.
The Rockies have their three. No, I can't even say they're 3 best because Cal Quantrill's been their best guy. They got 2 lefties lined up: Kyle Freeland tonight, Austin Gomber Saturday, Ryan Feltner on Sunday. Freeland and Gomber do not miss bats, so the Royals should make a lot of contact, which is a good thing in Denver. Ryan Feltner misses bats, but when he doesn't, the bats that make contact tend to do so and hit the ball loud and far. So the Royals have their 3 best starting pitchers lined up. And against a Rockies team that is strikeout prone, that's a bit of a catch-22, right? Like, I would expect Cole Reagans to rack up strikeouts tonight. But does that drive up his pitch count to a point where he can't give you more than 6 innings? Does Lugo on Saturday have to try and avoid strikeouts in a way to be more pitch efficient, to prioritize depth for the Royals as they have really slagged their bullpen over the last handful of games? It's a fascinating question. And then Brady Singer in Denver could be anything. Like, I am prepared for a wide range of outcomes for a Brady Singer start in Denver. 7 shutout innings? Yeah, sure. That lineup he's going up against is sorry.
But also
a blow up in 2 1/3? Sure. He's only got 2 pitches, and maybe the slider ain't sliding. And if the slider ain't sliding,
you're not in good shape.
Brady Singer really not in good shape. So, yeah, that could be anything on Sunday. But really, with Reagans and Lugo leading off the series, you'd like to think the Royals could wrap up a series win by the time Sunday rolls around.
I'm calling for a sweep.
I don't think that's out of the question.
I would like a sweep. The first road sweep for the Royals since last September when they somehow swept Houston in Houston. Like, how did that happen?
I remember that.
The Royals have won like 8 out of their last 9 going back to last year against the Astros, which I still don't fully understand since they won 56 games last year. The Royals have came close to sweeping a couple of road series this year at the Angels, at the White Sox. But you got to strike while the iron's hot here and get a sweep, I think, with the 3 best dudes lined up against one of the worst teams in baseball.
You got a chance to do it. The Rockies have lost 21 games this year by 5 or more runs. I have to believe that's the most in baseball. They are only 18-26 at home, but that's a damn sight better than their 12-31 road record. I don't know why I'm reading all these stats. All they're doing is making me sad. But they are underscoring the point that this is an opportunity for the Royals to pick up some wins, and they have, among the American League Central and wildcard contenders, the easiest opponent for this weekend. The Red Sox go to play the Yankees. Yankees have struggled, but it's still Red Sox Yankees. The Guardians are at home against the Giants, who are better than the Rockies. The Rays are at the Rangers. They are much better than the Rockies. And the Twins are taking on Houston. That's kind of a 6-game series in a sense.
Someone's losing.
Yes, exactly.
As long as you win.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's a 6-game series there because, there's a winner, but the loser is also helpful in the American League race. That is your Dan Lucero Bowl preview. Christopher points out the Rockies took 2 from the Brewers. Yeah, they also lost 2 from the Brewers. That was a 4-game split. In those 4 games, by the way, so we're clear once again that you are under no circumstances to turn off any of these Royals games, no matter what the deficit might be in the 9th inning. In that 4-game series, the Rockies won the opener in 10 innings. They had a 6-4 lead going into the 8th and gave up 3 runs. Had to come back and tie it and then win it. On Tuesday, the Rockies had a 3-2 lead going into the 9th and gave up 2 runs and lost 4-3. On Wednesday, the Rockies got shut out. That doesn't matter. And then in the game last night, it was a normal baseball game. Jalen Beeks pitched a 1-3 night. I didn't know that was constitutionally allowed. I didn't know a Rockies pitcher was allowed to do that. I thought that it had been written out of the rule book. Anyway, don't touch that dial. The Royals will be in with a chance no matter what in all 3 games of this series because, number one, they've got a bit of a reputation for being comeback kids. And number 2, the Rockies bullpen has a bit of a reputation for being an arson squad. So expect a series win this weekend. I would be very surprised if it goes in a different direction. We'll take a break, come back, wrap up 580 Sports Talk after this. 5:49 on 580 Sports Talk. We're rounding third, heading for home on this edition of the program. One of the reasons that I enjoy when the Rockies and Royals get together, and why it has been so easy for me, a lifelong Rockies fan, to be sympathetic to the Royals, I guess is the best way to put it, is because I think the franchises have a lot in common. I think that really over the life cycle of the Rockies, 1993 to now, there's really nothing separating the two franchises other than the Royals got their ring and the Rockies didn't. Like long fallow periods of not very good baseball and not very good players and not very good front offices and choosing players to be on your team because the general manager / owner would like to hang out with them and not whether or not they were good at baseball. Dayton Moore definitely guilty of that. Dick Monfort, the Rockies owner, definitely guilty of that. I really feel as though the Rockies and Royals are simpatico in a lot of ways. And a lot of Royal greats are also Rocky greats. You know, the top 2 seasons in terms of single season saves in Rockies history are Wade Davis and Greg Holland. That's a fact.
I didn't know that by greats. I thought you meant like guys like Garrett Hampson or Chris Owings, like guys you're like random MLB players.
We could remember some like good guys. We could remember like good players like Davis and Holland and Mike Moustakas, who had a cameo with the Rockies last year. Or we could remember the Desi Rellifords of the world, the Kit Pellos of the game's history. He's remembered a lot more fondly in Kansas City than he is in Denver. The Jeremy Guthries.
I didn't even know Jeremy Guthrie was a Rocky. Was that before or after the Royals?
So the Rockies traded for Guthrie in 2012, and he was miserable both as a pitcher and also like personally. And then
we gave you on about Sanchez,
Jonathan Sanchez.
He sucked as the Royals. I remember that now. Okay, I'm putting it back together. Yes.
Yeah, the Royals and Rockies have made some like fascinating trades. We talked about it. I think on a show last week where the Rockies traded Nafi Perez for Jermaine Dye. And then turn around and gave Dye away to Oakland for nothing. Brent Maine, there's another one. Let's see what's some other. Jeremy Affeldt. On the 2007 pennant winners.
Nice.
Royals and Rockies. Oh man, I could probably do this all day.
I got some Nats and Rockies.
I said Brent Maine. That'll be great when the Nationals play the Rockies. We'll get to those.
Yeah.
Jeff Francis.
Yes, Jeff Francis, the ace of the 2007 pennant winners for the Rockies. That's a good one.
Drew Butera caught the last out of the 2015 World Series.
Yes, it was on the playoff team in 2018. Jorge De La Rosa that came to the Rockies from the Royals in a trade and was really good for the Rockies after being terrible for the Royals.
Royals legend Jason Hamill.
Yes, the mystery of Jason Hamill. I mean, I always really liked Jason Hamill. That's a good one. Let's see. A lot of pitchers, weirdly.
Yeah.
Felipe Paulino.
Yeah. Oh, my God. He was terrible as a Rocky. Terrible. And then he caught on and was actually halfway decent, if I remember right, with Kansas City before he got hurt.
I think he had like one good year in like 2011 or 2012.
He had more good years than good games with the Rockies.
Franklin Morales.
Yes. Franklin Morales. He was a big-time prospect coming up for the Rockies, and he just kicked around. He couldn't throw strikes.
Jeremy Guthrie.
Yeah, we mentioned Guts. Great Royal, miserable Rocky.
Kip Wells,
yes. Technically opening day starter Kip Wells for the Rockies. We could do this all day, but unfortunately we do have to take one more time out. Come back with the final word after this. Wrapping up this Friday edition of The Final Word, or with The Final Word. It's 580 Sports Talk. This is The Final Word. Maybe
It's
that's
also
a good
Friday.
thing. It's very much Friday. Spencer, you've got the lead off.
Yeah, it is Friday. The Royals have a very winnable series against your Colorado Rockies. It's going to be a good time watching them this weekend. And I hope Sunday's Brady Singer start is not the second one that you mentioned earlier, where none of his 2 pitches are working and he gave up and he only goes 3 innings. So should be good. First weekend with my girlfriend living together with my girlfriend.
Hey, there you go. You got some fun plans? Where you going to go visit somewhere or just kind of hang out?
Might make a spur of the moment purchase tomorrow to see Kenny Chesney. Who knows?
Ooh.
But I'm glad she does like sports because she's getting the Royals a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last few nights we've been watching them.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Hope she continues to settle in nicely. For my final word, a couple of more ex-Rockies / ex-Royals. Sal Fasano, anyone? Sal Fasano, 25-game cameo. Catcher, had the Fu Manchu going. We mentioned during the break Jordan Lyles. That's a really obvious one. Jordan Lyles was not a very good Rocky and not a very good Royal, and I just hope he and his family are all right. He hasn't been with the team for a pretty long time, so hope everything is okay there. Final word for me today, beyond that and beyond looking forward to watching the baseball, the Royals have to find a solution at the top of their batting order. They have got to find somebody who can ignite the offense. This isn't the 2015 Royals. You can't put a guy with low on-base percentage like Alcides Escobar in front of all your good bats. It's not going to work. They need an igniter in front of Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino and Salvador Perez. And if they can't find one on the current roster, then they got to go find one via trade. That's going to do it for the show today. We got some overtime taking you to 6:30. Royals first pitch tonight at 7:10. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Monday from 2 to 6. Brandon will be back next week, too. So for Trenton Kraxner and for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This has been 580 Sports Talk.